Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Every year, these shores welcome millions of tourists. They come for the sand, the sun, the surf. But it's not always fun and games. At night, a darker, more sinister side emerges.
We do have some problems in downtown Myrtle Beach after like 10 p.m. That's kind of like a joke about Murder Beach, Myrtle Beach.
The Murder Beach, or Dirty Myrtle. After dark, it's its own monster.
It's really become a dangerous place, and there are a lot of beachfront and alligator farms and ways to dispose of bodies that people are never going to be found.
When a dead body is found, Megan Jackson is likely to get a phone call. The 35-year-old mother of 4 and her boss, Chuck Benjamin, provide a service everyone will one day need, but nobody really wants.
My name is Chuck Benjamin. I pick up bodies for the local funeral homes and the coroner's office. It is about 3:40 in the morning. We are headed to one of my local funeral homes to pick up a body to take it to the airport in Charleston so it can fly out to their final destination.
How long have you been doing this?
Since 2011, whatever that is.
Okay.
12, 13 years.
14 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the right schedule for today. Yep, 8:29. Leaves at 1 o'clock this afternoon, so this has to be there by 10:30, 11.
What do your grandkids call this?
The Deathmobile.
And you have it in your driveway, ready to go?
Oh, yeah. All my drivers have one in their driveway.
Because you can get a call at any moment.
24/7, 365 days a year.
With those hours, not to mention the grim realities of moving the dead, Chuck says it's not easy to find transporters for his business.
We don't have people standing in line to get this job.
We've
I can
had
assure
people
you
work
this.
one day and leave.
Megan was a next-door neighbor to Joan and Chuck. She had moved from Ohio with Greg and her kids.
She wanted to try it when I needed somebody. So I said, well, I'll take you on a few calls. If you like it, fine. If not, it's no big deal.
She had an interest in science and blood and things like that.
Very first call we went on was somebody had been down for a week. It was decomposition on the 3rd floor. And I mean, she'd hold her own.
She could pick up a body, which is clearly dead weight, by herself and put it on a stretcher or in a car. And she's teeny.
And just like that, Megan becomes an Uber driver for the dead.
I looked up to my mom in a lot of ways. She did a lot of work.
How would you describe her job?
It's a pretty sad and can be an overwhelming type of job, but I think that as long as you're being respectful and caring about what you're doing, then I think it's actually a really good job to have.
Everyone loved Megan. Everybody that she worked with in the business. We worked for a variety of different funeral homes. At the time, we worked for the coroners.
Megan's job requires her to work hand in hand with the Horry County Deputy Coroner, a man named Chris Dontel.
Megan was a great worker. She endeared herself to all of us at the coroner's office.
Did you ever go with her to work?
I've done quite a few calls with her, and it would be something I would actually look into doing in my future.
You would think of doing the same thing.
Yeah, I never really bothered me as a kid because everybody passes at some point.
As Megan thrives at work, her relationship with Greg Rice, the father of her children, fizzles out. After 15 years together, the couple splits up, but they share custody of their kids.
Greg moved to the Arrowhead community where he lived in an apartment. Megan, who had inherited a good deal of money from her parents, purchased the home in River's Edge.
On October 3rd of 2020, Megan went over to Greg Rice's home with the children. He was going to get the children for that day. There was no answer at the door.
I received a phone call from Megan asking if I heard anything from Greg because he's not answering the door, he's not answering his phone.
Ryan and Greg work together building patios and are best friends. Ryan tells Megan he last saw Greg when they both left work the night before.
I felt it was kind of fishy, and she ended up putting in a missing persons report.
Megan files the report in person at the police station.
Megan, right? M-E-A?
M-E-A-G-A-N.
What's your last name?
Jackson.
How long were y'all married for?
We weren't married.
Weren't married. How many kids you got together? Just curious. 4, really?
I was with him for like 15 years.
How long y'all been separated?
Over a year.
Over a year.
Megan says she last spoke to Greg on Friday, the night before he went missing.
And you talked to Greg on the phone at about 9:58, you said?
Yes. And I told him that I was still good for taking the kids to your house in the morning, and he said yes. And I mean, everything was fine.
That was the last time you spoke to him?
Yes.
So you never physically saw him Friday?
No.
Megan was pretty much painting the picture that Greg could have possibly overdosed, was in a ditch somewhere.
What kind of drugs did he do?
Like oxy, broxy, I can't remember what he called
Did he
it.
get hurt or anything? Is that why he started taking them, or just
No,
he just started taking them?
He lived right beside the Intercoastal Waterway, and she was saying he may have wandered off and drowned or just wandered off and OD'd.
Police ask for your help in finding Gregory Rice.
It was a mystery that shook this Myrtle Beach community. One day, 46-year-old father Greg Rice is living his life, and the next day, he disappears, seemingly without a trace. So this is where he lived, right here.
Yes, his children would come visit him for scheduled visits and unscheduled visits. He wanted to see his kids often.
What did you find in the apartment?
So at the apartment, his wallet was found, his front keys were found stuffed in a cushion on the front porch. His car was here, but not his phone.
Is that suspicious?
It is suspicious.
Why?
Most people would have left with their wallet. Most people would have left with their keys, or why walk down the road? Why not take the car and that kind of stuff? So yeah, that is suspicious.
We set up arrangements to go to Greg's apartment and split up in teams and search his apartment and grounds around it for anything, and we didn't find anything.
Investigators canvassed the Arrowhead community trying to see when he had last been seen, but none of that was really fruitful.
The investigators talked to neighbors, and by all accounts, it appears that Greg Rice was a good father. He had a job, he was a hard worker. He seemed to be just an average guy.
Greg had some very good friends in the community who just found him funny and caring and really enjoyed spending time with him. The children all loved him unconditionally.
How would you describe your father?
He was always that person that would be there for you at the end of the day. If you had something you didn't want to say to anybody else, you would go to him.
Greg had the kids almost every single weekend. That's the one thing that mattered the most with him.
You did a lot of fun things with him.
Yeah, I did.
Like what?
We used to surf together a lot, and he used to actually take pictures for the surfing competitions I used to do.
Our favorite hobbies would be definitely surfing and golfing. We would golf 3 to 4 times a week. He was absolutely terrible, but a blast to play with. Yeah, he spent a lot of time in the woods.
How did you find out your father was missing?
My dad always came and picked up the kids, and that didn't happen this day.
Savannah says her parents' relationship took a bad turn after her mother got that job, working in body transport.
She just kind of acted different, was homeless, could be a lot more mean than before.
She was never home, would leave at all times of, day and night, and just leave the kids.
At some point, were your parents arguing more?
Yeah, they argued a lot, but it definitely did get worse once my mom got a job. They stopped just talking things out, and everything became an argument.
And then they wind up breaking up.
Yes.
After Megan and Greg Rice part ways, Megan purchases a home in the same neighborhood as Christopher Dontel.
She moved into our neighborhood, and then a few times she started kind of like popping up at different places. We would go to the same places to eat, kind of had the same routine.
So quickly, she went from your husband's coworker to a good friend, family friend.
Very quickly. Yep.
After a while, when Megan moved to Chris's neighborhood, he would just call her and say, I've got a corner call, and I need you to, go to this address.
She would call me, hey, Chris has got a call, you mind if I go on it? Well, I didn't care. As long as it gets done on the, within the time parameters that I have to do it.
Megan and Chris are constantly in need of each other because the coroner's office needs body transport. And that would involve meeting each other all hours of the night, all days of the week.
And then in 2020, Chris and Megan's workload explodes because of the COVID pandemic.
The alarming surge in cases of coronavirus. Hospitalizations are up in 21 states.
Funeral homes didn't want nothing to do with it. They didn't want to go on the calls, so they would call me because they didn't want nothing to do with COVID. We were doing 2,500 calls a year, and Megan volunteered, and especially she always did Chris's calls.
Megan and Chris are together for work constantly, and the new neighbors' families become COVID bubble buddies during the lockdown.
After Megan moved into my neighborhood, her kids and my kids virtually had an open door policy at each of our houses. Her kids would come and go from my house. We ate dinner with them several nights a week.
She was showing up with groceries when everything shut down for COVID and we were struggling financially.
We were expecting a little boy. Megan had a full load of brand new nursery items and baby boy items.
We never asked her to do it. She just came in and was going to be the savior.
And then you hear that Greg is missing.
Chris came home and he was like, Megan reported Greg missing.
It would all become more troublesome when police learned Greg feared for his life.
Are you suspicious about anybody?
He was always worried about driving and being followed.
Whenever someone goes missing in Horry County, we always write a story about it. We're a small enough community that if somebody's missing, it's absolutely a news story.
Police ask for your help in finding a missing man who you see right here, Gregory Rice.
Police kept on coming by and just questioning us. Have you seen anything out of the normal? I mean, that's when red flags were starting to raise, like something seriously happened to Greg.
When was the last time you had seen him?
The week prior, and that was the weekend that I promised I was going to come see him, and I didn't get to see him.
What were you going through?
I was in a pretty bad shape. I wasn't handling it very well, and it didn't help that my mom was still going out every night and getting drunk, coming home plastered.
Did she seem worried about your missing dad?
She seemed worried at first on the phone call and when she originally came home, but after that it was just kind of like nothing.
From all accounts, they had a somewhat tumultuous relationship. There was a lot of friction between Greg and Megan.
She never called him by his name. It was just, oh, he's this terrible guy. I'm going to drop the kids off. If I'm not back in an hour, send somebody to look for me.
I wasn't surprised at them breaking up because I know things she said about him, how he would drink and do drugs and things like that. I think we just all assumed that he was going to be found in a ditch someplace from a drug overdose or drunken stupor.
Megan started making stories up about Greg being on drugs. Never once have I seen that out of Greg.
Law enforcement, they did look inside Greg Rice's apartment for evidence, the substance abuse issue. They didn't find evidence to support that.
No evidence of drug abuse, but investigators did find evidence to suggest Greg was increasingly nervous and suspicious in the days leading up to his disappearance.
Detective Susie called me over the phone, asked me if I would come in for an interview, and I said absolutely.
So I'm Detective Susie. I'm the one that called you on the phone.
So you're a friend of the...
Yeah, and I also work with him.
They had actually worked together that last day, and Greg had actually said to Ryan, if anything ever happens to me, it's not a suicide.
Greg mentioned to me that if something was to happen to him, he didn't offer himself.
What do you think could have happened? What were your thoughts at first?
She had something to do with it.
What gave you those suspicions?
Just the way Greg talked.
He had a feeling that he was being followed by a silver, unmarked car. Megan made it known that she hung out with cops, was real friendly with cops.
She always made the comments that she knew people.
Do you think she would be capable of doing something?
Not by herself.
Not by herself. That statement stood out to detectives.
Walk me through Friday.
I know that I went to Abuelo's on Friday.
What time did you go to Abuelo's?
Not a clue. It was nighttime. I was there with one of the corners.
Initially, when investigators spoke to Megan, she had just gone to dinner with someone from the coroner's office. And then later, when questioned about that, she said it was Christopher Dontel.
We ate at Abuelo's.
Who'd you eat at Abuelo's with?
The coroner. Oh, Chris.
Chris.
Dontel.
So you wound up getting closer to Megan. Did you see her as someone you could confide in?
I did.
And you did?
I did.
Based on interviews and just other information from the investigation, I certainly think there was a belief that Megan Jackson and Christopher Dontel were romantically involved, but it hadn't been confirmed. So that was one thing that the investigators did want to either confirm or refute, that there was this affair going on.
It's now been 10 days after Greg Rice is last seen, and Megan and Chris are both being questioned by the Horry County PD.
One thing that we have to do is, like, we know who you are, we work with you, but we have to 100% clear you out as quote-unquote a suspect in his disappearance.
Okay.
Okay. So some of the questions I'm going to ask are intrusive. They're uncomfortable questions.
How we got your name was Megan said that you guys had gone out to eat on Friday night. And then with Greg going missing sometime around that time frame, we're trying to gather what happened on Friday.
We went to, I believe, Abuelo's that night.
What did you do immediately after you got done eating?
We both got in my car.
Okay.
That's the uncomfortable part, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
So y'all were in your car?
Yeah.
Okay. Did y'all have sex in your car?
Possibly.
Okay.
I mean,
It's not possible.
You had adult relations.
Okay.
yes.
Eventually, the naked truth bubbles to the surface.
What's the relationship with you and Megan?
If I'm being honest, it's something I would get divorced over.
So you think his intentions are to leave his wife and are y'all
No.
planning on starting something?
Oh, hell no. I'm never moving a man back in my house ever again.
So this is just a fun.
I don't know what we are.
Your wife doesn't know.
She knows a little bit, but not the full extent of it.
I just don't want to wreck, he's got kids.
I know. Again, that's not mine.
What about the Chris? Do you want me to answer it?
No, just, he'll be okay. He can wait.
Investigators ask both Megan and Chris for their cell phones, which they voluntarily hand over.
I get this back today, right? That's
Yes.
But it's someone else's phone that leads to a shocking revelation.
Erica Dontel began to receive anonymous text messages that said, in essence, hey, your husband has gotten somebody pregnant.
It must have been a hard pill to swallow that your husband had impregnated this family friend. It all turns into a twisted tale. What started out as a missing persons case uncovers a secret affair between a deputy coroner and his partner in body removal.
They were in the business of death, and I really do think that that was something that drew them together. It takes a certain special kind of personality, I would say, to deal with death on such a regular basis voluntarily.
So how did it go from you two being co-workers to something more than that?
She said, "Have you ever cheated on your wife?" And I said, "No." And she climbed over the console and got on top of me and started to kiss me.
How were you able to carry on the affair? Where would you go?
Because of our job, I would get phone calls at all hours of the day and night, and it was easy to leave.
One night you realize that Chris and your mom might be more than just co-workers or friends.
Well, I just had friends over one day, and they were just being loud in the bedroom. And the next day I was like, "Wait, were you guys like sleeping together?" And she told me, "Yeah, I thought you knew." And I was just like, "No, I didn't know, but thanks for telling me."
You had a great wife at home, Erica.
The most amazing wife.
Why did you continue the relationship with Megan?
She made our lives easy. She was going to be the answer to everything.
You did it for the money.
It sounds terrible to put it that way, but yes. I was not at any point physically attracted to her.
Really?
I was attracted to the lifestyle she was providing.
Did you suspect at all that she and your husband might be having an affair?
No. Because the way they acted, she treated him almost like brother and sister type.
Erica Dontel began to receive anonymous text messages.
And it just said, "I think you should know that your husband is having an affair and got somebody pregnant. Oh, and I think you should know it's Megan Jackson."
It must have been a hard pill to swallow that your husband had impregnated this family friend.
Yeah. It was so far out of character for Chris. He told me it wasn't happening. He was like, "Who would say that? Like, what? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, somebody's messing with us."
Your wife received some texts from an anonymous account. What's going through your head? Do you think about coming clean to your wife?
I didn't. I downplayed it. I didn't even know that I believed Megan was actually pregnant. I didn't know what to believe at that point.
They end up calling Megan right then per Erica's request, and it's all on speaker. And Megan dismisses them and, basically, well, it must be Greg Rice.
This is what Greg does. Greg causes problems. This is what he does. He just tries to come in between any relationship that she tries to have.
So you sort of let it go?
For the time, yeah, she said she was going to take care of it and get him to leave us alone.
Chris Dontel is having an affair with Megan Jackson. Greg Rice may have been leaking information to Erica, Chris's wife.
Authorities believe that if Greg was sending those messages, Chris and Megan would have a reason to silence him. They know, thanks to their interviews, that the pair was together the night Greg disappeared.
Chris was in it the entire night.
Yeah.
So you have to drill down exactly where Chris and Megan were that night, right?
Yes.
When Greg disappears. Where did Megan and Chris start off that afternoon?
They both lived in the same sort of residential community. This is Megan Jackson leaving in her car at 6:16. There was another still showing Christopher Dontel leaving just about the same time.
In separate vehicles?
In separate vehicles. So this is the van that she was known to drive to transport bodies, and Christopher Dontel is always seen driving a County Explorer.
Minutes later, both vehicles are seen entering a nature preserve where they stay for several minutes. The two work vehicles then leave and head to Abuelo's restaurant.
Abuelo's is not that far from the preserve. They went there. We had surveillance video of them coming in. This is surveillance video for
That's them sitting at the counter.
sitting at the bar. And one of the reasons why this photograph was important is because it helped us corroborate phone records, because you can see Megan Jackson on the phone there. And that's one way that we say, look, the phone records are correct.
Looking at the forensic results of their phones, they started to get GPS locations. Then they could go back and there's license plate readers.
This is the entrance to the community where Greg Rice lives, and right there on that pole is a silent watchman on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's called a license plate reader, or LPR, and people drive past them all the time, all over Horry County. On the night Greg disappeared, Chris Dontel and Megan Jackson drove by this one, not once, but twice.
So in this photograph, we see this is the license plate that was assigned to Megan Jackson's transport van entering into Greg Rice's community. This was right around 10 o'clock, and then just about 6 minutes later, you see the same van with the same license plate leaving the community. And one of the things that this helped us with is that Megan Jackson swore up and down, Christopher Dontel swore up and down, that they had never been to that community.
Did you ever go to his apartment that Friday night?
No.
Have you ever been in Greg's apartment?
No, I never went to. I've never been to.
So this was clear evidence that they were hiding something.
On the night of October 2nd of 2020, Greg Rice's phone records indicate that he was at home most of that night until he got 2 calls from Megan Jackson, and that was just shortly before 10 o'clock. Shortly after that, it did show his phone leave the area of his apartment, which would have been going in the same direction as Megan's phone as well.
It's a short ride to the next stop of the night, and where Megan's body transport van ends up couldn't be more on brand.
If you could write a script, you have a body transport person, a deputy coroner, and at least one visit to a funeral home that night. It's the business of death. By October 23rd, the investigators had done a fabulous job of gathering different pieces of electronic evidence.
Investigators say Megan's body transport van is seen leaving Greg's community the night he disappears. They also say Greg's phone is with Megan. According to the evidence, where do they go next?
Their phone records place them at the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home.
Chris and Megan have access to that funeral home because of their jobs, right?
Yes, just based on his position as a deputy coroner and hers as a body transport person, they pretty much had free access to funeral homes.
What about surveillance video from the funeral home?
That would have been wonderful, but life is rarely that easy. It wasn't working.
The cameras at the funeral home weren't working.
They were not working.
Megan and Chris are racking up the frequent flyer miles in interrogation rooms. Now the regulars are back in the hot seat.
He knew that her van had driven into Greg's community, and that's certainly information that they used in their interviews.
Did you ever go to Greg's house?
No.
Then can you explain why the van you were driving that night hits on a license plate reader going into Arrowhead from Cleveland?
Well, it shouldn't have.
I have pictures of it.
I mean, that's fine, but it shouldn't have.
But it did.
Okay, but I can't explain it, because
You were driving the van.
Well, I can't explain it.
You and Megan were together the whole night. Megan's van drives into Arrowhead at 10 o'clock that night. We could have been by Arrowhead.
Do you remember anywhere you would have been?
And I'll be totally honest with you, because I'm sure you know already, she's giving me a while I was driving the car.
Dontel used this sort of oral sex while driving as his reason for not being able to tell exactly where they went and when they went.
I tell you about Arrowhead, about pulling into Arrowhead. You say, I don't remember that. I don't know about that. All I can tell you is that I don't have anything to do with Greg being missing. So all I am guilty of getting.
You know who has the motive? It's Chris. He has a lot to lose. He's got the motive. And I think you're covering up something up for him.
I'm not.
And we're giving you every opportunity to get yourself out of the situation.
There's nothing for me to get.
There
I
is.
don't know where he is.
I feel like I'm being investigated for something that I didn't do. Chris, you are being investigated. You are, absolutely, 1,000%.
I hope it's worth it, Megan. I really do.
I don't have anything to charge you with, but there's no doubt. I didn't do anything. Well, Chris, I'm going to tell you this. If someone asked me to put a bet on it, I would say that you did.
Without more direct evidence, police let Megan and Chris go. Meanwhile, the search for Greg continues, retracing Chris and Megan's steps.
Maybe that body has been cremated. Let's go check the gas and see if an amount of gas was used that would have represented the burning of a body. And there was nothing to see there. No extra gas had been used.
And then weeks go by with no sign of your dad. It must have been agonizing for you.
I just wanted him to come back. I just wanted him to be found and be okay so that I could go to his house. It was just a lot of begging and pleading for him to come back.
This is the Little PD River, miles of slow-moving water surrounded by natural wildlife. And that makes it a very popular recreational spot for swimming, canoeing, and catfishing. For Donna Sue Souls, it's the relaxation and family tradition of catfishing that has brought her here for decades. You said you call this your happy place.
Yes.
Why?
It's just peaceful. It takes all my worries away.
And then, 37 days after Greg Rice's disappearance, a discovery. So November 7th, 2020, how did that day start out?
Well, we come and set up. We set about 8 hooks that night. And then when we turn around and come back through, then that's when, I mean, you could smell the smell.
All right, tell me about the smelling.
It was really bad. It was horrible.
On a closer look, what do you see?
Yeah, well, it looked like the tarp was just laid up there. And then once you got the paddle and we lifted it, that's when we seen the ratchet straps tied around the bottom parts of the legs. It was like around both and then around the head on the other side.
What went through your mind?
Well, I dropped the paddle. It scared me. And I started crying. I was like, this can't be true.
And you were scared?
Yeah, I was scared.
The Marion County Sheriff's Office gets a 911 call. Tell me about that.
We get a call for some people fishing found what they thought was a body. It was they found a tarp, and they knew something was in the tarp.
The tarp had black zip ties on either end and then also ratchet straps with cinder blocks securing it, obviously trying to keep the body submerged.
It sounded like a mafia hit.
It would seem that way. It would seem that way. They didn't take into account that when the decomposition starts, the gases fill up and it'll actually float.
Big mistake.
Big mistake.
This body was extremely decomposed. I mean, there was always this thought, okay, here's a body, maybe this is Greg Rice.
Things had to be done, DNA and dental records, to positively ID this person, unfortunately, as Greg Rice. The medical examiner determined that there were positively 5 gunshot wounds on Greg Rice. Investigators start to look at the tarp that Greg's body had been wrapped in, and in fact discovered that the Lowe's Home Improvement here in Conway, South Carolina actually sold that particular name brand. And they go to that store and they start to inquire, has anybody purchased these items? And lo and behold, someone had.
But what really blows up this investigation is a piece of evidence that's literally full of hot air.
Why would you use a plastic glove, doll?
Sex and scandal and then murder. Let me ask you, have you seen anything like this?
This is a new one for me.
Yeah.
What am I under arrest for right now that I'm being murdered? Murder.
It just was like, oh my gosh.
You've transported hundreds of bodies in your life, and now here you are involved in a real-life murder.
Has Megan ever told you that she killed Greg? Asked her how she knows he's dead. She said, why? Doesn't matter.
And I asked her, what do you mean? And she just wouldn't say anything.
They both claim to be not really knowing how Greg was killed.
This was a high-profile case with a lot of twists and turns.
They had a blow-up doll?
There was a blow-up Betty doll in the front passenger seat.
My mom could be an evil woman.
She had threatened to kill me. Felt like for the last 5 years that I've been looking in the barrel of Megan Jackson's gun.
He made this big cry, oh, I'm afraid of her.
Sounds like a horror movie. Spooky.
Never seen anything like it in my life, ever.
Weeks go by with no sign of your dad.
I just wanted him to come back.
Did your mom seem worried about your missing dad?
Not really.
The former partner of Megan Jackson is now missing, and we've got the idea that there's this affair going on.
I mean, it's scandalous. Somebody from the coroner's office and somebody from a body transport having an affair.
Over a month later, Greg's body was found along the Little PD River.
Once Greg's remains were recovered, there were very specific items found used to wrap his body. Ding, ding, ding.
How did detectives wind up at this store?
They wound up at this store because after the murder of Greg Rice, they found Greg Rice's body and he was wrapped in a tarp. And investigators later looked that tarp up and it happened to be a name brand that was sold here.
Oh.
And so they did a follow-up on that to see if there was a tarp sold anytime recently.
Police are able to get a receipt from Lowe's for a tarp, cinder block, zip ties, and a diet soda. And that's not all. As most of us know, in stores like these, there are security cameras everywhere.
When you go back to October 3rd, the video surveillance showed the person buying those items, and that person was Christopher Dontel.
He's very relaxed. He's very well dressed in the video. He's wearing khaki pants and some nice shoes. He buys a Pepsi Zero. He's just nonchalantly pushing his cart with his murder dump kit through the line at Lowe's.
But now you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that he is involved. He bought all of these things that are used. There's more work to be done, but we were certainly on the right path.
As you drive out to the Little PD River, you pass the PD Exchange, just a little gas station convenience store. And you can actually see what we know is Christopher Dontel's vehicle driving past it one way and then returning the other way. And that coupled with LPR hits for Dontel's county vehicle really kind of cemented the fact that Christopher Dontel had driven Greg's body out there.
Convinced that the coroner did a lot more than just sign a death certificate, investigators rush over to the Dontel home.
Hey, Eric. How are you? My name's Greg. Is Chris home?
Yes.
Hey, Chris.
But he was just sleeping in bed, sound asleep, not a care in the world.
Your wife and children, it's probably better that you just come on and talk.
Over the past month, Chris has not provided detectives with much.
So Chris, I mean, you got some questions and probably some things to say. I mean,
I like to have my lawyer present.
But in this case, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Chris, I'm not going to ask you any questions. What I do want to do, though, is I'll leave these here with you. Let's do shopping at Lowe's. And there's the body you threw over the bridge. Take it on because, well, you understand, you're not leaving the building today. You're going to be going to county jail here shortly. Okay?
What am I under arrest for right now that I'm being...
Murder. Murder.
At what point can I speak with my lawyer?
At the same time, Megan Jackson is taken in.
Well, all I want is okay.
I don't have anything else to tell you other than what I told you.
Well, I can tell you that's not.
Nobody here thinks you're a bad person. Nobody thinks anything could happen to Greg.
You have no motive to Greg.
But Chris does. So,
the night of the second, you guys were together all night long?
Everything that I remember, yes.
yes, I know you weren't with him on the 3rd between 2:30 and 3 because he called you. But I know where Chris was between 2:30 and 3 on that Saturday.
We were at a call.
No, you weren't.
The detectives then confront Megan with some very powerful images.
So you mean say
You're able to make those arrests.
Chris, stand up, turn around.
I'll see you.
And after your father's body is found, the police come to your house.
They told us that my dad was found and my mom and Chris would be being charged.
That must have been so hard for you to lose your father and then to find out that your mother might be involved.
Yeah, it was a lot. Because I just never believed that my mom could do something like that.
We start with breaking news. 2 people have been charged with the murder of a missing man.
Police say Dontel and Megan Jackson are connected to Rice's death. Both are charged with murder.
And I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? I had no idea. I was shocked.
When we got this information, it was beyond a shocker because Chris Dontel was a man who we would reach out to for homicide investigations, and now you have a deputy coroner who is arrested in a murder case.
And you had no idea from his behavior that he might be involved?
Mm-mm.
Erica, I really think at that point she still did not want to believe that her husband was having an affair with Megan Jackson. She did not want to believe that he had anything to do with the murder.
With Chris and Megan now booked in jail, investigators continue to search their homes for any items that may be connected to Greg's death.
Yeah, that is spooky.
The police say they saw some very concerning things.
The power button's to the top right.
When investigators with Horry County PD did a search warrant at Megan Jackson's home, she had multiple guns in the home. Strangely enough, all of them were accounted for, but they found an empty gun box that was a .22 long rifle pistol that is consistent with the murder weapon in this case.
As investigators look through the home for evidence, their search takes a drastic new turn.
She's got bottles in every crevice you can find.
She drank a lot.
It was just very clear that she was not a good mother.
It's like a doomsday room. You got a code lock.
There was a lock on the pantry door, so the children did not have free access to food.
And then investigators head up the stairs to Megan's 13-year-old daughter's bedroom.
What did the police find out about that?
Well, they found out that she had an alarm on her door.
An alarm?
If she was to open the door, it would beep. Eventually, it just got worse.
Their doors had locks that were turned to the outside so that they would not be able to open their doors from the inside.
The windows, they were nailed shut, and then spray foam insulation was sprayed around the windows.
It was like a prison.
Yeah. Yes. Pretty much.
She would essentially lock them in the room so that she could go, and she would go to work or do whatever she was going to do.
She was busy doing this job and obviously involved with Chris. I felt bad for Savannah that she always had to be in charge.
I was the parent of the house while living with my mom because she was never home. And on the weekends would be the times I would go to my dad's, but it would be also the only times I could actually have free time and hang out with my friends.
So you didn't go to your dad's?
No. It's one of the things that I regret most in my life. Because I should have, and I could have, but I didn't. And I really regret that.
The situation in Megan's home, besides murder, was so concerning that Megan's children were placed into emergency protective custody.
As a result of what investigators saw, she was charged with 4 counts of unlawful conduct toward a child.
Nothing at all to do with the murder or the arrest for the murder. It was totally separate.
Days after Greg's body is discovered, a bartender at this restaurant sees Chris and Megan's mugshots on the local news, and she remembers serving them rum drinks one night at the bar and overhearing a conversation Chris and Megan were having with a fellow patron.
So the conversation they were having?
They were normal conversation, like, what do you do? They explained, well, he explained that he was a coroner and she transports bodies, and he's like, that's got to be a weird job. Small talk like that. Later on, it got into conversations about their families. She started going into great details about how much she hates her kids, how she never wanted them. She said, I think about killing them all the time.
The bartender says she overhears Megan making some disturbing comments about her family.
I had heard Megan say the same things, but I didn't believe Megan would actually do that. I chalked it up to the alcohol.
And a week after their arrests, Megan and Chris have their bond hearings. Prosecutors decide to try Megan first on the more serious murder charges.
Megan and Chris were ultimately let out on bond, but they were on house arrest.
One of the standard conditions is no contact with the co-defendants, no contact with the victims. In this case, for Megan Jackson, it would have been her children.
Chris loses his job with the coroner's office, and now armed with an ankle monitor, he returns back home where his wife is waiting.
At his bond hearing, they said, you know, we've got Mr. Dontel on footage at Lowe's buying, you know, the things that Greg was found in.
Now, are you a little more suspicious?
Yeah, so then I was like, well, that doesn't sound good.
Do you confront him then?
Oh, yeah.
Were you angry?
Oh, yeah.
How did he explain it?
Just that it was the perfect storm of just bad decisions and bad situations, and then, you know, it crossed the line for the affair.
And essentially their job, the circumstances of their job, made it easy to hide the affair.
So now Chris and Megan are back home, living just a few blocks away from each other, but they're barred from having any contact.
I was fielding calls weekly from people in the community. Both of them continuously broke those bonds.
Their ankle monitors were appearing at the same place at the same time.
They said they were getting together to exchange Christmas presents at one point.
He's out on bail, but he's still communicating with Megan.
Yeah. I found a cell phone. The only contact in it was a nickname, but I knew it was Megan. And I was like, after all this, you're still talking to her.
Personal drama aside, as investigators prepare to bring these cozy co-defendants to trial, they discover a silent witness.
Megan calls it Blow Up Betty. Let me ask you, have you seen anything like this?
Not with a coroner and body transport people. No, this is a new one for me.
So I get involved as an investigator here at the solicitor's office after their arrest. And we start looking at the evidence we have, clearing things up, and making a timeline a little more crispy.
Where are we driving into now?
We're in Lewis Ocean Bay Heritage Preserve. It's a recreational area.
Hours before Greg Rice went missing, Megan and Chris drive into the preserve.
They had them on camera going in and out of that area.
What happened at the preserve?
Prior to anything happening with Greg, Megan had a interest in guns and shooting. She would shoot in the woods, and on this particular day, we went to the nature preserve. Megan wanted to go shoot.
What was she shooting at?
She would shoot at everything from tree stumps to pieces of paper that she would fold up, just random things.
So there's a still image on a license plate reader that you can see Megan leaving with this object in the front passenger seat of her vehicle. It was revealed that it was a blow-up doll, and the doll had a name, Blow Up Betty.
Betty? What was it used for?
At the moment, we don't know.
Your guess?
My guess is for target practice on this day.
So Blow Up Betty is no more.
I would surmise she probably isn't.
Was there a blow-up doll involved in all this?
Not that is relevant to the case. Megan was a unique individual, and
you don't know why?
No, that was just one of many eccentricities about her.
And investigators uncover more shocking details about Megan's personal life.
Before Greg Weiss went missing, Erica Dontel began to receive anonymous text messages that said, hey, your husband has gotten somebody pregnant.
It turns out what was said in those mysterious text messages was actually true.
Megan, she goes, before anyone else tells you, I want to let you know that I'm pregnant.
Oh, Megan. What, are you just getting in deeper?
She told Christopher Dontel that she was pregnant, and then she had told people that she had a miscarriage. She did have a baby eventually.
There has never been a paternity test. Chris, of course, just accepted paternity.
The baby was eventually placed in the care of a family friend.
Our office is no stranger to really high-profile cases throughout the state. And this was a high-profile case with a lot of twists and turns.
This was an incredibly circumstantial evidence case against both of them. The problem was what they were missing and what they didn't know.
Because of the lack of physical evidence, the lack of a crime scene, one of the things that as prosecutors we always knew we needed was for one of these co-defendants to tell us what happened, to testify against the other one.
We signed what we call a proffer letter saying, if you cooperate, if you testify truthfully, there may be either a reduction in charges or perhaps a reduction in sentence.
Y'all sure you don't know anything? Yeah. Sure good.
With a lawyer present, Chris Dontel meets with investigators and vows to tell the truth about what happened.
So Chris says that on this night when they went to the Myrtle Beach funeral home after they'd had dinner, that Megan had left some reading glasses.
She said, I need to go see Greg. So she leaves. I stayed at Myrtle Beach Funeral Home. I did not leave.
Dontel tells us Megan Jackson left for a bit, came back.
She said, we have to go. I said, is Greg here? She said, no, but we have to go. She was shaking. I never saw Greg that night. We left.
And the next day it's like, you have to go get rid of the body.
I asked her how she knows he's dead. She said, why? Doesn't matter.
Has Megan ever told you that she killed Greg?
I've asked her so many times because I wanted answers myself, because I've had to answer to this, and my life's been ruined because of this.
He was not really knowing how Greg was killed or when he was killed.
Prosecutors don't believe Chris is telling the truth. And when he refuses to take a polygraph, they turn to Plan B, Megan Jackson. What does she have to say?
This is the part that I didn't tell the truth on.
Chris had a favorite song, a Keith Urban song.
Only You Can Love Me This Way.
Cause only you can love me this way.
The night that Chris asked me to be his girlfriend, it was at the Keith Urban concert, and that song was playing.
Cause only you can love me this way.
You still hear that song? Still listen to it?
Yeah.
Chris Dontel has been in jail for violating the terms of his bond on numerous occasions for having contact with Megan Jackson.
I remember that.
But his wife, Erica, has continued to stick by his side.
So this is a photo from Charlie's preschool graduation, and that was our last family photo all together before his bond was revoked. So just how little they were. I mean, I feel like they're different people now. They're so big.
And the children, do they know that something's not right in the house?
Yeah, they do not know where he is or the situation.
You were trying to protect your kid.
And I never thought that he'd be gone as long as he has been gone.
Megan Jackson was in and out of jail as well for breaking bond conditions. And as pressure mounts, prosecutors offer Megan a chance to tell her side of the story through her own proffer.
Some people call it queen for a day. Like, this is your opportunity. You tell us everything, and we'll see if it's worthwhile.
We're here today because you, through your attorney, have requested to come talk to us today, okay? You are to provide us any and all information in a truthful manner.
Should I start from the beginning?
Megan Jackson says that Dontel had badgered her into luring Greg to the funeral home so that Dontel could confront Greg over spilling news of the affair.
This is the part that I didn't tell the truth on. I went to pick up Greg. He got out of the car, went into Myrtle Beach Funeral Home, and I gave him a couple minutes. As I got out of the car, Chris started coming out the door. And then I said, well, where's Greg? And he said he wouldn't talk to me. He went out the front.
She says that when she brings Greg back to the funeral home, she just sort of sends him in on his own and then never sees him again. That Dontel told her he had simply walked off in anger, and that was it.
When did you learn that Greg was dead?
After you showed me the body.
So Chris never told you?
Not until several weeks after.
They both claim to be not really knowing how Greg was killed or when he was killed. They're both saying, I didn't have anything to do with it, but there's enough that maybe you should think the other person did it.
Did you shoot Greg Rice?
No.
Were you present when Greg Rice was killed?
No.
Part of your agreement that you have is that you're consenting to a polygraph?
Mm-hmm.
What this case, I think, eventually just turned into is finger pointing, and she failed the polygraph.
We were trying to get one of the defendants to testify against the other. We met with Megan Jackson, and it never got to the point where we believed we could ethically put her on the stand. We are putting up someone who is going to lie. And we said, okay, well, we listed them both for trial.
A judge decided that the two trials had to be split.
Megan Jackson's attorneys got a continuance, so we said, fine, we'll go forward with Christopher Dontel.
We had a pretty rock-solid case for accessory after the fact to murder. He was on the tape at Lowe's buying the body dump kit. So we made the decision to go forward on both charges, the murder and the accessory after the fact to murder.
Chris did not go to trial until about 4 years after the crimes were committed.
We're going to go ahead and begin this trial.
We had picked a jury. I was actually doing the opening statement, and I was halfway out of my chair when Christopher Dontel's attorney stood up.
And the defense attorney says, Judge, we've got a matter we need to approach.
Christopher Dontel's attorney said he'd like to plead guilty.
Recess.
We immediately hit pause for the trial. What in the world is going on? What's he trying to do here?
It's a major turn of events just 2 days into the murder trial for former Horry County Deputy Coroner Chris Dontel.
It was a really big deal. I mean, reporters were ready for a week of trial.
All right, hold on. We're going to just put a microphone on you.
And then all of a sudden, he just pleads guilty.
For him to do that was quite shocking, but at the same time, he did not plead guilty to murder.
He pled to accessory after the fact and conspiracy to commit murder.
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm John Quinones. Why is it so important for you to speak with me today?
The most important reason is so that the Rice family can get closure. The first day I met with my lawyer, when I told her that I would plead to whatever I'm guilty of if I can help bring closure to those kids. And I've never even hurt someone, let alone murdered someone.
As soon as he entered the plea, we sat down with the prosecutors and told them the story with the actual missing pieces that he was able to fill in for them.
After he took the plea, Chris says that he will testify against Megan Jackson in her trial.
I'm afraid of her because I watched her kill the father of her kid.
I actually found out about Chris's plea, and that's when I called, and I said that I wanted to testify against my mom. I asked her, what do you mean? And she just wouldn't say anything.
June 2025. All eyes are now on the Horry County Courthouse, where Megan Jackson's trial begins 5 years after the murder of the father of her children, Greg Rice.
This case was a big deal. There was a lot of media buzz.
A trial is currently underway for a woman charged in the 2020 murder of a 46-year-old man.
Mary Ellen, Walter, and Lee Waller are the prosecutors in the case. Mary Ellen is known to be a bulldog trial attorney.
I don't see how it's not relevant, quite frankly.
And Lee is also a very hardworking prosecutor.
It's a story of an affair, a pregnancy, and a murder. There's one person at the center of everything, and that person is Megan Jackson. She may look meek and mild, but she is a master manipulator. She was literally in the business of death. Megan Jackson was represented by the Britton family, Tommy Britton, the father, and then Case and Preston Britton, his sons.
I'd like to see a murder weapon. Don't have it. Don't have any eyewitness testimony. I don't have any of that direct evidence. The stuff that a murder case should have.
The very first witness for the prosecution, Megan Jackson's own teenaged daughter, Savannah Rice.
We felt it important to open with Savannah because anytime you have a child testifying against their parent, that sends a strong message. And Savannah, I know you're nervous, I get it.
And how much time had passed since you saw your mom that day in the courtroom?
Almost 5 years.
What did she look like?
She just looked hollow, and just having her sit in front of me, it made me uneasy. She had come home drunk one night, and I was in the kitchen, and my sister she wasn't behaving, and I told my mom, and she started screaming, and my sister was upstairs, but then she looked at me, and she said, I hope what happened to your dad happens to your sister. And I asked her, what do you mean? And she just wouldn't say anything.
What would drive a mom to say that about a daughter?
My mom could be an evil woman.
This is your mother.
And then the prosecution's star witness,
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Chris Dontel, takes the stand to tell the jury his version of what happened that night.
I drove her van. We drove toward Greg's apartment. I saw Greg on the road walking. I pulled up a few feet, stopped, and she opened the door, and in one motion, spun out of the seat, pulled a gun out, and shot him over and over. I didn't see it coming. Neither did he. We picked him up out of the road and put him onto the stretcher that was in the back of her van.
You've transported hundreds of bodies in your life, and now here you are involved in a real-life murder.
Correct.
And you drove to the funeral home as if this was just another corpse.
Yeah. My emotions were high, but we handled the body just like would any other body.
They had all the tools in the world to assist them in this. You know, they had a body transport van, they had a funeral home, they had a cooler.
I made a cremation container and I put it into the cooler and pushed the stretcher up next to it and started to push Greg in. I went to Lowe's sometime during the day.
Did you realize there were security cameras there?
I did.
Tracking you behind the tarp, the cinder block, ratchet straps?
Yeah, you gotta remember, this is not something that I've ever been involved with. I had no plan.
Chris tells the jury that the following night he heads back here to a place he knows very well, the Myrtle Beach Funeral Home, to dispose of Greg Rice's body.
I waited till it was dark. I unfolded the tarp that I had purchased. I put him in my Explorer. I started out toward the river. I went back to the middle of the bridge, popped the back gate of the Explorer. Took about 10 seconds, put them in the water.
Megan's lawyers try to discredit Chris Dontel as dishonest and an admitted liar.
You have lied to the police throughout this process.
Correct.
So what stopped you from going to one of your acquaintances and telling them what happened?
The fact that your client told me that if I did that, she would kill me, and I had watched her kill the father of her kids, so I believed her.
You were still having sex with Megan Jackson afterwards?
Correct, for a period, yes.
Okay.
You could have said what happened and you didn't. That family suffered for more than 4 years.
She had threatened to kill me.
But after she was jailed, she couldn't kill you.
She kept getting out on bond. Felt like for the last 5 years that I've been looking in the barrel of Megan Jackson's gun.
He made this big cry, oh, I'm afraid of her.
Why did he continue to communicate with her? That's a bunch of baloney. That's crazy.
You know, there's the danger that the jury does not believe everything that Dontel says. So how can we show them that the investigation has corroborated everything he said? And that's where Lieutenant Wells came in.
My name is Benjamin Wells. I do digital forensics and digital extractions on mobile devices.
Erica learns in a really shocking way that her husband is having an affair through anonymous text messages.
Erica Dontel believed that these anonymous texts were coming from Greg Rice.
Through the analysis of her cell phone, it was able to be proved that Megan Jackson was the actual one sending these to Erica Dontel.
They were created on her phone. They were all sent by her.
That was the aha moment, like, wow, she really is trying to, frame Greg, and this is it.
Why would she tell you that she's pregnant by your husband?
I think she thought, oh, I'll tell you this, you'll leave him, and then she'd have him. And then that didn't work because I stayed.
When it's the defense's turn, they call no witnesses. Instead, Megan's lawyers point the finger directly at Chris Dontel in closing arguments.
The only person that actually has a motive to get rid of Greg Rice is Chris Dontel. And can you trust him?
Two fates will be sealed.
As to the charge of murder, we the jury...
And a young woman confronts the demons
We will never be able to live a normal life.
of her past.
Is there anything you would want to tell your mother?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I understand the jury's reached a verdict, is that correct?
Every time a jury deliberates, you wonder how long it's going to take. But I don't think they deliberated that long on this case, truly.
As to the charge of murder, we the jury, by unanimous consent, find this defendant guilty.
And then you hear the word guilty. Relief?
Yeah, also a little bit of heartbreak. It is my mom.
The woman charged in the 2020 murder of 46-year-old Gregory Rice will now spend the rest of her life in prison.
And as for Megan's outstanding charges of child neglect, those charges were dismissed.
She's doing life in prison, so why put the children through that if we're not going to gain anything?
A month later, it's now Chris Dontel's turn to be sentenced.
How are you feeling?
Alright.
What do you think will happen?
Yeah, I just hope that he gets the time that he deserves. He hugged me as I cried and begged for my dad to come back. He told me it would be okay and that we would find my dad. He didn't tell me that we would find him dead.
His wife, hoping Chris will walk out free on time served.
Megan Jackson infiltrated all areas of our lives and became the literal antichrist to our family.
To simply keep saying I'm sorry just doesn't feel right. And I don't know that I can effectively articulate the depth of the combination of love, pain, regret, and compassion I feel for those kids and for everyone who loved Greg.
Christopher Dontel ended up being sentenced to 15 years for accessory after the fact and another 5 years for conspiracy, and for those to run consecutive.
Your reaction to what happened in court?
Obviously, I'm not happy about it. I was sentenced to the maximum.
If you could talk to Megan, what would you say to her?
I have nothing to say to her. There's a lot of victims in this case. Gregory Rice and his family, my family.
And you?
I believe so.
With that 20-year sentence, Chris's wife, Erica, needs to have a long-delayed conversation with her 2 young children.
They thought that he was away for work, and so I told them that he was in fact in jail. That's where he had been, and then just kind of explained the story the best I could.
I spoke with Megan on the phone, and she told me that she did not shoot Greg Rice, the father of her children. She denies those child abuse allegations, saying that she loves her children very much. And in a letter to 2020, Megan writes, Chris Dontel is a liar. What he said on the stand is a lie.
Is there anything you would want to tell your mother? Or ask your mom?
I just want her to tell me why she did what she did. And to tell her that I hate her, because...
That's a strong word, hate.
Yeah, I hate that woman. I hate her.
Greg and Megan's youngest children are now being raised by their older half-brother, Zach, Greg's son from a previous relationship, while Savannah lives on her own in Ohio. But recently, Savannah found herself back on the shores of Myrtle Beach, where she still has her fond memories of surfing with her dad and his best friend, Ryan.
This was a board that I had designed to surf with Greg, and I'd like to give it to Savannah so she can at least use it and enjoy it.
Your dad, what would you tell him?
That I love him, and that I want him to know that, like, I'm okay. There was a point in time living in that house where I thought I was never gonna get out. No matter how hard and horrible your environment can be, you can always make it out, and you can turn your life around and be the person that you want to be.
I think he would be very proud of you.
Your father says, I have a plan to rob a bank. Shouldn't your first reaction be, are you crazy?
I asked my dad, are you the devil here to tempt me? He said, yeah, probably.
I remember thinking, is this normal? Does everybody do this?
The 3 of them, a family affair.
He had recruited his own children to be his accomplices.
And they're yelling and screaming and scaring the daylights out of everybody in the bank. Give us all your money.
In just moments, they're out.
I mean, duh. How long does 3 people think that they can just rob banks for? You know, it doesn't last forever.
You got your kids involved in this, and you're asking them to do time for you.
Who would want their own child ever arrested, much less doing hard time behind bars?
They'll be fine. This guy possesses an addict's brain and a sociopath's soul.
You may think.
On October 1st, 2012, in Katy, Texas, a suburb of Houston, it was a pleasant afternoon, 1:50 p.m.
It's a little bit quiet on this particular Monday. Not a lot going on at all.
You know that lazy feeling you get after you have lunch and everything gets kind of quiet and subdued? That was exactly the atmosphere in First Community Credit Union.
There were 7 people inside the bank. All employees? Yes, sir.
And a silver Ford Focus drove down a street called Cinco Ranch Boulevard toward First Community Credit Union, and the car stopped near the bank, and out come 2 men.
What we're seeing here is the 2 suspects have arrived on the scene.
And they have on orange vests like construction workers or street crossing guards often wear.
The first thing that stood out to me were the bright orange construction vests they had on.
And I thought to myself for a split second, what are they here to fix?
One man has a painter's mask on his face. Another man is wearing a fake mustache. They're wearing blue latex gloves.
One of them is brandishing a gun.
This is a bank robbery. Give me all your money.
Hands up, this is a robbery.
The older suspect, he takes control of the room. He's got the weapon. Immediately, the younger suspect hops the teller counter.
When he jumps the counter, that's a takeover robbery.
One of the men rushes toward a teller and says, give me everything you've got. I've got bills to pay.
What goes through a banker's mind when a robbery happens?
Fear, just to do what they say, give them what they need, they have guns.
One of the tellers actually is able to slip a pack of bait money into the bag.
This is money with the serial numbers recorded, so the cops are able to trace it.
It was pretty brave on her part.
One of them jumped the counter, one of them rounded up everybody in the office.
You can see that he goes directly for the bank manager, because she's in charge. She's the one that's going to have access to the safe. She becomes instantly aware that there's a robbery taking place. She activates her silent alarm.
Several of the tellers were actually still on their lunch break back in the break room.
Were you having lunch? What were you doing on the break?
I was sitting in there, I was heating up some food, I was talking on the phone. One of my other coworkers was in there, she had just come in to have her lunch.
They didn't even realize anything was happening until they see a blinking alarm going off.
And I just kind of stopped and I looked up and I told the person on the phone, I was like, I've got to go.
They get everybody together in the safe room, and they order them to open the safe.
The only thing that tripped them up, they were so flustered they couldn't get the combos right to open the safe fast enough.
Do you remember the thoughts that went into your mind as soon as you realized that this is real, this is happening?
To be honest with you, I wanted to go out because I didn't know what was happening. My heart was racing, I felt a pit in my stomach, I felt scared for my coworkers.
They ask somebody where the back door is. Head straight to the back door, out the back of the building. Little did they know that they passed right by the break room where these other two employees are monitoring the situation.
Like a bolt of lightning, ran right past the break room, out this back door. As soon as they busted through that door, the alarm sounded. So this door right here is the back door of the bank, and this is where they busted out the door. That moment it hit me. They just robbed us. It took everything I had to remember, oh my God, look out the window and look for them. So these blinds, I did like this real quick. They literally walked down the sidewalk fast as they could until they got to the curb, and then they stopped and they just kind of casually walked to the car.
Bank employees just inside here saw them heading down the alley, and one of them said she saw them get into a silver car. Which was the car parked over here.
And this is the first time we get the description of a silver vehicle.
And they're gone.
What seemed like 30 minutes was, I believe they were in and out in less than 3 minutes. Because they knew exactly what they were doing, they had done this before.
And a successful bank robbery is completed.
When you heard that this bank had been robbed, were you at all surprised?
I was, because we'd had a previous bank robbery here about 6 months prior, and I was thinking, well, that guy's in jail, who's robbing it now?
That detective and other Texas lawmen I interviewed for this story had one question. Who were these guys brazen enough to knock off a bank in the middle of the afternoon during bank hours? And investigators immediately try to find eyewitnesses, noticing that there's a chiropractor who works right next door.
He had noticed two men wearing contractor reflector vests as if they were simply taking a break.
They were sitting right there next to my back
Like
door.
against the wall.
Yeah, they were actually,
Yeah.
They were actually right here. And that's unusual for anybody to be sitting here in the middle of the day. So I said, hey, how you guys doing? And they said, fine. And I told the little guy, I said, nice mustache. And he kind of giggled a little bit.
Could you tell that the mustache was fake?
Oh, it was fake. Yeah.
Oh, you could tell.
And then the FBI actually came back, and they're the ones who told me that those were the guys who robbed the bank.
A closer look at the older bank robber reveals that he's got a walkie-talkie.
Because of the walkie-talkie, we believe that there is someone on the outside of the bank giving them a hand.
So they had those trash bags. How much money did they actually get put in there?
A little over $29,000. It's a pretty good haul. I've had bank robberies where they've had $3,000 or $4,000 total.
Can you imagine what these employees went through?
Oh my goodness. I mean, you start walking into a bank with a weapon and you start pointing that at people and ordering them to cough up the money. I mean, that can change your life forever.
The sheriff's detectives are about to make a series of really jaw-dropping discoveries about these robbers. For one thing, this isn't the only bank they've robbed.
There was a robbery with similar MO at the Comerica Bank.
And another thing, those robbers, one older, one a little bit younger, the way they work so well together, almost like they were family.
That was noticed by all of the employees there, that there was something special about that relationship. They could have been father and son.
The quest to identify the people who robbed the bank in Katy, Texas, the robbers with a family resemblance, sparks curiosity even among the most seasoned detectives.
Our only thought was, we got to find out what this story is.
It'll eventually lead from the Lone Star State all the way to the Pacific Northwest and back in time to when a man named Scott Catt met Beth Worrell.
Scott and Beth grew up 40 miles south of Portland in a picturesque town called McMinnville. Beth was a champion swimmer. Scott played on the football team.
She came home and told us that she'd met this wonderful, blonde, handsome cowboy.
Beth was, very, very loving, good mommy, terrific mother.
She kept him sane. She knew how to bring him back from some of his crazy times.
They lived in a nice house with 4 bedrooms. They had 2 beautiful children. Life was good.
And then she got sick.
She went for a regular mammogram, and she called me and said they want to do some more tests.
I remember going from crying to laughing to crying to talking about going wig shopping to it's all going to be okay. You have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I mean, I think we were really positive that it was going to be just a bump in the road, and that wasn't the case.
She didn't live long after that. It just went rampant through her.
Do you have any memories from your mother?
Just one, when she was sick. I just remember her being carried down on a stretcher, bright orange. It was the brightest orange I've ever seen in my life. That's it, just that one memory. That's all I remember.
Doesn't sound like so much fun.
No, but I still have that image of her in my head. I can still see her. Even if she was on a stretcher, I could still see her face, which is cool.
In the years after Beth died, Scott goes to pieces. He begins drinking, he's doing drugs, he falls into a depression.
He does let alcohol get a hold of him. He turns to cocaine. He begins to slide and lose his footing.
But somehow, despite his life falling apart, he manages to hide it all from the kids.
To his credit, Scott picks up where Beth left off. He's playing the role of mother and father and doing a very fine job of it.
My dad was right there for everything. It was always just us 3.
He cooked for them, he cooked lavish meals for them. He was the president of their swim club.
We go before school, we go after school, swim meets on the weekends. I mean, it consumed our life, but we loved it. We were part of a team. It was our swim family, and my brother was always there, and he was my favorite person in the world, and he still is.
We were very close. My sister is the only consistent thing I've had in my whole life, and I'm the only consistent thing that she's had too. I can just look at her and know what's on her mind, what she's worried about.
Despite the fact that outwardly it seems like a solid Catt family foundation, the fact is there were cracks.
His persona outside the house was Dad of the Year, Volunteer of the Year. He said all the right things, he did all the right things, he took his kids to church, and then once he was home and he was alone, I think the real Scott came out.
There wasn't really a disciplinarian. I mean, there was no one there hounding us to do homework or keep up our grades.
Did you guys start drinking in the house? You
and Hayden? Yeah.
Yeah. How old were you when that started?
High school.
And then he told me he got his dream job in Texas.
A Texas recruiter calls him and says there's an engineering job with a Houston area oil company.
So many bad memories here, he wanted to get away from it. It would be a fresh start for everybody.
And no matter how good Scott's jobs are, it always feels like the family is just a little bit short of money. And so Scott goes to his son Hayden with this insanely outlandish idea. Hey, we're gonna rob banks together.
He says, I made a decision that this is what I want to do. I want to rob banks for a living.
When he approached me and said, would you be willing to do something to get some money more illegal than selling drugs? And I said, yes.
Your father says, I have a plan to rob a bank. Shouldn't your first reaction be, are you crazy?
Looking back on it, I can't believe that wasn't my first reaction.
Why did you go along with it so easily?
I had a real struggle, and a real internal struggle. I knew it was wrong, but I was really motivated by the money.
Now, it's bad enough that Scott asks his own son, Hayden, to commit this felony with him, but then he ups the ante.
He used Hayden to convince Abby to going along with the plan to rob banks.
How did you react?
Well, the way that he presented it to me was like, we need you in order to be successful. And then it was just like, okay, you know.
Why did they need you?
Well, so that they didn't have to drive.
Did you have any hesitation about this?
Really, there was no question. I was gonna do it. There was no questions. I had no questions. They told me they needed me, so I did it.
And the way Scott explained it to me was that he didn't see this as a chance to teach his kids about crime. It was a chance to teach his kids about self-esteem.
And this is how the Cat family decides to start robbing banks together. Hayden and Scott, they're gonna be the stick-up men inside the bank. Abby is going to be the getaway driver. Simple plan. What could possibly go wrong, right?
The morning of the first bank, I asked
his own children to be his accomplices. No one had ever thought of that before.
This is the only one I've heard of. Well, it's the only one I've worked.
When Scott first came to Texas, he called Hayden and said, I love Texas. There's a bank on every corner. These are big banks. They're beautiful banks. There are banks after banks after bank.
Scott will later tell a reporter that this is his way of motivating his kids.
Needed to do something where they would get a reward and feel good about themselves. And so somehow, Scott thought, if I teach them how to rob banks with me, they'll feel this sense of accomplishment they can't get in high school.
And for their first family outing, they choose the Comerica Bank.
Picture this, a Thursday morning in August 2012, a strip mall. It's got it all. It's got the donut shop. It's got the Radio Shack. It's got the wedding dress shop. And it has a bank, a Comerica Bank, wedged in with all of the other businesses.
Now, the getaway driver is Abby, and she's just recently gotten her license, barely knew how to drive stick. Now, this is something they definitely don't teach you in driver's ed. How long did it take you to drive from your house to the bank?
Oh, a minute. 2 blocks away.
You robbed the bank 2 blocks away from your own house. Does your dad do like a mental checklist for everybody? Like remind everybody what their jobs are gonna be?
You know, like, okay, well, drop us off here, and then, you know, we're gonna walk here, and then, you know, pull around back, and you pick us up here.
The doors fly open. In comes 2 armed bank robbers. They both have pistols. They're both wearing white painter's overalls. They've got white latex gloves. And they're yelling and screaming and scaring the daylights out of everybody in the bank. Give us all your money.
He walked in first and said, nobody move or put your hands up, or I really don't even know. He was kind of like the muscle with the gun, and I was the money guy, making sure I got all the money.
They demand money from the tellers and from the safe.
Robbing somebody at gunpoint was not something I would think I would be capable of. But when I opened the door to that greed, it wasn't an issue anymore. And in fact, I was probably willing to do more than that.
Were people scared?
Absolutely. That's been one of the hardest things to deal with, is the look of fear on some of those people's faces. I was actually shaking so bad that the employees grabbed the bag and started throwing money in for me.
The employees at the Comerica Bank also noticed that at least one of them was wearing a walkie-talkie. These employees actually heard communication coming across on that walkie-talkie.
The tellers hear a female voice coming out of Scott's walkie-talkie, counting down the time. 30 seconds, 1 minute, minute 30, 2 minutes. Because at the 3-minute mark, they had to go. That was Scott's rule.
That was probably like the most nerve-wracking part of it, was just like, just come out, you know, just get out of there. Because my dad kept, well, hold on. And it's like, hold on for what? What do you mean, hold on?
Now, they're ready to hightail it out of there. But guess what? The back door is locked. They can't get out.
And this was a very tense moment. They went to run out the back door and ran right into it because it was locked.
And they have to get a teller to unlock it for them.
High drama was not as carefully planned as we thought.
Did you just drive right back home, the 2 blocks home?
Yeah, I did. It was a stick shift, and I could barely like do the stick. You know, when you take off, you got to make sure you take off without killing it. And I was like,
They walked away with $70,000, which is a huge haul in the bank robbery business. Most bank robbers are lucky to get away with $2,000 or $3,000.
I assume you'd never seen so much money in one
No.
place in your life.
No, it was quite overwhelming.
The cash in your hand totally changed my mindset, my thinking. All it did was feed the greed. All I wanted was some more now.
So you were willing to rob again?
I was, yeah.
Now you think that most people, after a major score like this, would lay low for a while, get off the radar, not make any extravagant purchases. That's not the Cat family.
They used that money to purchase vehicles with it. And then there was some partying going on.
What kind of vehicles?
So, I believe they have a motorcycle, and they have a Tahoe, and they have a Ford Focus, things like that.
I went and I got my nails done. I remember that. And I just drove around and did that was kind of my thing. And I definitely looked at my dad differently after that, though, that's for sure. I remember thinking, like, is this normal? Like, does everybody do this?
Shopping, cars, partying, really nothing to show for it.
Was there anything left over?
I don't believe so. They didn't manage their money well, because 2 months later, you need to rob another bank. How long could you last with $70,000?
The problem for them wasn't so much the pre-planning. It was the post-planning that was the problem for them.
And are you thinking to yourself, what is happening here?
It was kind of like a dream. It was kind of unreal.
And soon they realized the money was gone.
Within just 2 months, the Cat family is already running out of money, and they begin plotting their next heist. But this time, their luck runs out even faster than their cash.
They were trying to take shots of alcohol, and they couldn't even get the alcohol down because they were so nervous. And I'm like, this is not, we need to just not. My dad very, very much, no, we have to. We have no money, we have to.
After the Comerica bank robbery, the robbers walked off with $70,000. And in no time at all, it was all gone.
So imagine you're a father who has just pulled off a bank heist using your 2 children. You might say to yourself, wow, what did I just do there? You'd think maybe that's what Scott would have thought. Oh, but no.
He had no inclination to keep his kids out of it. He thought they were a great team.
So they start looking around, and what do they see? They lock in on the First Community Credit Union.
Why this particular bank? Well, there are a number of reasons, but one of them is the bushes right in front of the bank that block the view from the street. So after you robbed the first bank, your job was to go scope out the second bank. What was that like?
I was very nervous to do that because I felt like everybody knew what I did. Everybody could feel why I was in there, could feel my vibe, and that was super scary and nerve-wracking.
When any of us walk in a bank to cash a check, whatever, we're caught on camera.
Surveillance cameras actually capture Abby on her stealth reconnaissance mission of this bank.
Let me tell you, she is not opening an account. It's Abby Cat doing a little recon before the robbery.
We wanted to know some of the details going into it, I guess, about how we were going to enter and how we were going to exit.
And when she gets back, she, her brother, and her father sit down and essentially draw up maps to use as a guide for once they get inside the bank.
Now, the next step in the planning is to change their disguises. They swap out those white painter overalls that they used in that first robbery for something else.
some reflective orange vests, some mustaches, glasses, hats. They were doing some construction in the area, and that was our disguise, I guess, to maybe walk around and mill about a bank without drawing too much suspicion.
So it seems a safe bet would be to purchase those contractors' reflective vests. So Abby and Hayden go to the Home Depot.
And you chose Home Depot because?
Proximity to our house.
And you didn't think that someone could trace that?
I didn't think there would be anyone following up behind us.
And like Scott did on the first robbery, he had Hayden, the night before the second robbery, go out, steal some license plates from a car in a adjoining parking lot, tape them to the license plates in the car they were going to use to hide the real license plates, but to be able to rip them off as soon as they could when the robbery was over.
Now it's the day of the robbery, October 1st, 2012, and as they prepare to leave the house, Abby says her gang is not exactly brimming with confidence.
They were trying to take shots of alcohol and they couldn't even get the alcohol down because they were so nervous. And I'm like, this is not, we need to just not. My dad very much, no, we have to. We have no money, we have to.
Were you scared?
Yes, I was scared. It's just something you just like want to be over with.
Do you remember feeling nervous?
You know, I remember feeling nervous and anxious, a lot of adrenaline.
Did you announce that it was a robbery?
We did. We would shout something or yell something initially. It's definitely not like the movies, or at least that ours wasn't like that.
Were people scared?
Absolutely. I remember a few people's face still. Total shock.
Terror?
Yeah, they were scared, terrified.
Hayden jumped behind the counter and then asked for the money to come out of the different tills. Scott was able to get the employees huddled into the bank vault, and they removed some money out of the bank vault as well.
In just moments, they've come in, they've gotten the money, they're out.
They head out of the credit union, and of course, Abby is ready and waiting.
My dad's just like, go, you know.
And he was saying, don't go too fast, right?
Oh, yeah.
He did not want you to speed.
Yeah. By the time we got on the highway, he was fine. He relaxed a little bit, and we drove home.
You guys went home, you had a pile of cash in the house.
Yeah.
Sure, you could keep doing this, right? You didn't get caught.
Yeah.
In their minds, they made a clean getaway. Little did they know how many things they did wrong.
They thought they had pulled off another perfect crime until they got home and realized that one of the license plates that had been taped on had fallen off somewhere.
It was found in the alley, laying next to a dumpster right where Abby had been parked.
The license plate had Scott's fingerprints on it.
Why didn't you just screw the new plates on?
That was for being able to remove them quickly.
So smart, but not smart enough.
Sure.
Then the second mistake they made was in the planning.
They had no idea that bank employees were still having their lunch in the break room. And as they were watching the closed-circuit TV, they were actually writing down a description of the bank robbers.
But the biggest clue of all is something that a very astute police detective spots as he's going over that surveillance tape. I mean, it's so small that you wonder that anybody noticed it at all.
He's looking at those reflective contractor jackets, and he notices, well, they look like somebody just took them right out of the package because they have nice creases in them.
What did that mean? That they were just purchased.
And we were able to isolate those vests at Home Depot.
The purchase of those vests were made with Scott's debit MasterCard, and it wasn't a stretch to get him identified after that.
Then they looked at the Home Depot security video of the purchase made, and they saw that it wasn't a Scott Cat. It was a young man and a young woman.
But they don't know who those two people are on the surveillance tape. Now we use the modern day tools that cops like to use, and one of them is social media. Cops look for Scott Cat on Facebook.
And on Facebook, they saw Scott Cat's photo with his two children, Hayden and Abby, who looked exactly like the two purchasing the orange vests. Suddenly, Detective Martin had the entire Cat family sort of at bay.
Did you think that that would be the thing of everything that gave you guys up?
Not even a little bit.
They go back and look at more video, and they find Scott Cat buying painter's mask. So at that point, they've got it all.
A man and his two children are now in custody tonight, accused of robbing.
It wasn't until they took the Katzes into custody that the police really realized how horrible a father Scott really was.
Abby called and she was yelling at me. I'm in jail and I need $10,000 to get me out of here. get me out of here right now. And I said, you have to get that money from your father. She says, he's the reason I'm in jail.
Morning of November 9th, just after sunrise, members of the Sheriff's Department show up at the Katz apartment to arrest Scott, Hayden, and Abby. They have no idea that Scott and Hayden were planning to do a robbery that very day, and they were just waiting for Abby to show up in the getaway car.
Shortly after that, Scott comes walking out of the apartment, and detectives were able to take him into custody.
It's been about a month since the first community bank heist.
They say you're being arrested for bank robbery. And Scott looks at the cops and says, which one?
We then went inside the apartment, arrested Hayden without incident.
And all of a sudden, our door gets kicked in, and you're surrounded by police officers, guns, weapons. My world came crashing down at that point.
What a wild story this is. A 50-year-old Scott Katz behind bars awaiting trial.
What is it like to see your son associated with that?
Horrible. How can I wrap my brain around this?
It was so unbelievable, and all I could think of was I was glad their mother was gone so that she didn't have to see this.
The police get a search warrant and they go to their residence, and they were absolutely shocked based on what they found.
We found some bank straps. A bank strap is a little paper strap that wraps around a certain quantity of money.
Apparently, they just would pull cash out of those bank straps, and when the cash was gone, they didn't throw the bank straps away.
They find no cash. $100,000? There's nothing, no cash.
Incredibly, they also found a crumpled sheet of paper, which was the script that Scott had written out for Hayden to say when he came into the bank robberies.
It says, this is a bank robbery. All we want is the money, 20s, 50s, 100s. No alarms, die packs, or GPS. Or you, family, and coworkers will be hurt.
But now, as they're bringing Scott and Hayden in for questioning, they want them to be able to help them answer the biggest mystery of all. Why would Scott enlist his own kids to rob banks with him?
You're gonna figure out, I'm gonna be forthright, okay? I'm gonna be forthright.
We began talking with Scott in such a way where we were just having a conversation with him.
Was there some things that you did without the kids, and then that led up, and then the kids got involved?
I'll give you the whole thing, I swear. I'll give you the whole thing.
How much did he tell the officers? He spilled the beans. He waived his right to counsel, and he just told investigators exactly what happened.
I always thought that a bank was federally insured. I thought that if there is a bank robbery, we're told to just give the money and get the guy out of there. So in my mind, I thought, that's kind of, easy pickings. I guess in my mind, I thought that it was,
no victims.
Yeah.
It seems Scott didn't recognize the legal magnitude of bank robbery. This was all kind of casual. Aggravated robbery in the state of Texas is a big deal.
God, help me understand, how did you broach this topic with the kids?
Well, I think you have to go way back to the very beginning when their mother passed away. You gotta understand it was just the three of us, and kind of segregated us, I kind of made it so that he really couldn't get close to us.
He had manipulated them to think he was the only person that could take care of them, and they would do anything for him.
Going through that kind of very segregated kind of grieving puts them more at risk to future manipulations from that individual who now controls them psychologically, physically, financially.
Tell me how that first time went down. You sat them around the dinner table and said, let's go rob a bank, or?
I guess it wasn't around the dinner table, but it was, it was a little Friday night gathering, just sit around watching movies or something. I really don't remember the details of all that. I mean, how it happened, but.
Scott's own words were that he was completely responsible for manipulating his children.
It was all my manipulation of the two of them and her. I mean, I did this whole spiel about, you know, how easy it was going to be and how we didn't have to worry about it.
These poor kids need him so badly that they choose wrong instead of right, not so much because they're evildoers, but because they loved their father. And he took advantage of that unconditional love. He doesn't know anything about unconditional love. He loves Scott Catt.
Scott was the first one that we interviewed. And then we interviewed Hayden.
Okay, Hayden, before we start.
When Hayden's initially approached by law enforcement, he said he didn't want to talk to them.
And have you talked to your father?
Yeah.
Okay. And then did your father give you any advice?
Just to cooperate.
But after having a conversation with his father, Scott, he then decided to tell them the truth. It's a great example of how much control Scott has over Hayden.
Is anybody forcing you to do this?
No.
You doing this on your own?
Yes.
Because you want to cooperate. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did it feel to confess?
To be honest with you, I was still full of some pride. I was still full of some arrogance.
Oh, so you felt good about it because you were bragging?
Yeah.
Not surprising he feels that way. Remember, Scott told him bank robbing would boost his self-esteem.
So he approaches you about this, and then tell me, how did it progress from there?
Well, you know, I was scared. You know, I was really scared at first.
It's so heartbreaking when you think about it. The point here is that Hayden does what Daddy says.
He definitely, as far as like what to look for in a bank, he, you know, I mean, told me, you know, what to look for and stuff. Fear was our biggest tool, I think.
Okay. So y'all would have to use fear? It would help y'all?
Yeah. I mean, that's all I needed. But one of them, there was a girl that was, you know, she thought she was gonna die, and, you know, we felt bad about that. You know, like, no, honey, we're just here for the money.
You can see this in that grainy surveillance video, the absolute horror and terror that's all over their faces. You can only imagine what kind of fear they must have felt.
You may think that Scott Catt manipulated and used his own children to rob banks, but it doesn't end there.
Scott confessed, Hayden confessed, and then Abby was brought into the interrogation room.
You know, he's always been there for me. He's been the only person that I have, so it was just like, okay, almost, you know?
If you thought a parent manipulating their children into robbing banks was bad, well, wait till you see what happens now that they've been caught.
You hear of bank robberies every day.
The Geezer Bandit. Barbie Bandits.
And they're a dime a dozen. But it is very rare that you hear of a father reeling in his own children to rob banks with him.
A man and his 2 children accused of robbing banks.
It made for great headlines. The family affair, all in the family. The family that robs together stays together.
Oh, son, if I didn't know better, I'd say that was you.
The family stole thousands of dollars. Abby Catt drove the getaway vehicle.
People were fascinated with Breaking Bad.
What the hell is wrong with you? We're a family.
I think they kind of see some of the same thing with this particular story.
How did such an ordinary-looking, normal family turn into bank robbers, waving pistols and driving getaway cars?
And you're asking them to do time for you. It says it right here. Where did you get this?
I talked myself into robbing banks. I'll just rob banks. Probably better at that anyway.
Investigators were very pleased, obviously, when Scott started talking about the robberies in Texas. But they were totally taken back when he started talking about robberies in another state.
Now, detectives have those bank straps they found on the floor of Scott's apartment. And some of them come from Oregon. So now detectives are suspicious that, well, maybe Scott robbed banks there too.
Okay, I'm just trying to think about the first one.
We had a big chalkboard in there, and he was writing on this chalkboard.
First Federal Savings and Loan.
Bank robbery 1 in Oregon.
Number 2 was another one. It was in McMinnville.
Bank robbery 2.
3 was in Portland.
Wow. Why would he volunteer that?
I don't know. Maybe he had a guilty heart.
I think that's all about that it's going to help him. In his mind, he's going to come clean and he's going to end up with less of a sentence.
And in that one, same thing, some sort of cover with a painter's mask, a hat, and sunglasses.
The painter's mask thing is pretty consistent.
It was with me because of my goatee.
Not only is he confessing to the crimes that they're aware of, but he's now confessing to others that they didn't even know about.
Starting off, believe it or not, in the same bank where Scott Katz's dad retired.
The newspaper printed a classic grainy photo of the robber standing in front of the teller. And Scott's mother saw it in the newspaper.
And I said, oh, son, if I didn't know better, I'd say that was you. And he grabbed the paper from me, and he looked at that. I remember so vividly, and he said, yeah, it does, kind of. And that was it, no more conversation.
And you had no idea that he was doing this in Oregon and then that he was doing this in Texas.
I swear to God.
I got lucky on that one.
If I'm surprised about anything, it's the fact that he was able to, remain undetected. You would think that someone in his hometown would have known him.
These first 5 were in Oregon.
How many of those did either Hayden or Abby know about?
None.
And now Abby's about to learn everything also. Scott Cat leaves the interrogation room, and the next person in is Abby. She's also under arrest, and the first thing she sees in that interrogation room is this whiteboard with the list of all the banks that her father robbed in Oregon.
You looking at the board?
Yeah. I saw on the whiteboard that he had wrote out some things, but I'm sure it was more than that.
It struck her, the enormity of what her father had done and what he had persuaded her to be a part of.
He's always been there for me. He's been the only person that I have, so it was just like, okay, almost,
And even then, she says to the investigators, he's my dad, and I love him.
I mean, how's your dad? I didn't know him until today. I mean, he's a pretty good guy other than what he got mixed up in here.
Yes.
Good father.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, a pretty normal and happy childhood.
Normal, everyday kind of family, I guess.
Despite the horrendous things that a parent can do to a child, in so many circumstances, that child will still find a reason to believe in that parent and to make an excuse for that parent no matter what.
I've trusted him my whole life, and I continued on to do so. In the position that I was put in, it was more like, I have to do it to protect my family.
That if you didn't help them, then they would do it themselves and get arrested.
Exactly.
If there is a victim in a group of bad guys, she would be a victim.
He didn't approach her initially. He used Hayden to convince Abby to going along with the plan to rob banks.
What exactly did they ask you to do to help?
Just drive.
Okay. Drive. When you say drive, I mean
like getaway drive.
The getaway car?
Yeah.
Did they ask you to do anything else?
No, never, and never, not once.
She's being made to believe, it's nothing, you're just driving the car, kiddo.
You just said it. I mean, we need a getaway driver to drive.
Because we're gonna rob a bank.
Yeah.
But what anyone knows who follows crime and justice is that you can just be the passenger in a getaway car and still be equally responsible to anyone who's inside that bank.
Did it seem like Abby was comfortable in her role as getaway driver?
Absolutely not. I know that it was only the influence of me and my father that pushed Abby to that.
I don't think anybody in their right mind would really understand how you get your children involved. I mean, getting your 2 children involved in robbing banks with firearms.
But it made you feel better when they told you the guns were fake.
Yeah. I mean, of course it did. Just knowing that no one would get hurt.
Until they told you they weren't real, you thought they were real, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever think that your Dad would get hurt, or Hayden would get hurt, or they might hurt someone during this?
Honestly, no. No, I don't think they would hurt anyone, and I don't think anyone would hurt them, but that's not true.
But it shouldn't come as a big surprise for you that you're going to have some legal consequences.
No, it's not. No, I understand that.
Now, both of these kids are facing big trouble and big prison sentences. At the same time, Scott is starting to scheme. He's trying to get them to do more time so that he can do less time. Why don't you read something for me? This is your letter to Abby, by the way.
Where did you get this?
Now, they're only indicted for their second robbery in Texas, that heist at the First Community Credit Union.
How many sins must I confess?
And they're facing 5 to 99 years in prison.
Texas, like most states, has an accomplice liability law. If you intended to be part of the robbery, you can be charged with the exact same crime as the person who was at the center of it.
Now, these are kids from a middle-class family, and now they're in this Texas jail. Hayden and Abby's lives are already completely changed.
I never thought about jail or any of the repercussions from walking to the bank. This has been life-shattering for me.
And I feel like now I've lost my mom, and now I've lost my dad, because most parents don't do that, so.
No, parents are supposed to keep you away from trouble.
Yeah, that's hard to deal with, to grasp onto.
It's 2013, and I sit down with Scott Catt for a series of interviews for 2020 while he's awaiting trial. Scott.
A little more to your right, just a little more.
Everybody good?
We're rolling.
What I'm struggling with is how your kids got involved, how they are sitting in jail right now. Is that a mistake? Is that an error in judgment, or is that just, what is that?
It's all of the above, you know. It's probably an error in judgment on all of us, and especially my part.
You're sacrificing your children for your own needs. So are we looking at some sort of a narcissistic personality, antisocial personality, borderline personality, maybe a combination of all of those things?
When I went to interview them, Scott said I would only rob banks for my family.
He wants you to believe that everything he does is in the interest of the entire family unit. That is really a bunch of baloney. This was in his blood. This guy possesses an addict's brain and a sociopath's soul.
What would your mother have said about all of this?
It probably never would have happened if my mother was here.
What would Beth say, your first wife? What would she say about you dragging your kids into, as you said, your sex?
I can't even imagine. Can't even imagine. I'm really ashamed.
You would expect that a father who's convinced his kids to join in a bank robbery would, after they get caught, say, look, I'll take the heat. And that's how he starts.
If you were offered a deal where you had to spend 25, 30, 40 years in prison in exchange for both of your kids going free, would you take it?
For them going free? Absolutely.
What about life in prison?
Sure.
But as time goes on, he starts talking to them about what they can do to help him.
And even though all three of them are locked up in the Fort Bend County Jail, they're all in separate cell blocks, and the only way they can communicate is by handwritten letters. Now, at this point, Abby's lawyer gives us letters that Scott sent his kids. Now, apparently, he was trying to encourage his kids to do hard time so that he can do less of it. A month later, hey Scott, how are you? I speak to Scott again. This time, I'm allowed to be face-to-face.
Let's go. All right, rolling.
Why don't you read something for me? This is your letter to Abby, by the way.
Where did you get this?
He wrote this to Abby. As long as you, Abby, are ready to do some time, I think it will better my chances, I hope. Here you are asking her essentially to do time for you.
Yeah, I was trying to manipulate. I'm trying to get something
Who are you
from everybody.
manipulating?
I'm trying to get everybody something that they can live with.
You told me that you would be willing to spend life in prison in order that your kids do not spend time in prison. You got your kids involved in this, and you're asking them to do time for you. It says it right here. I do believe that you doing prison time will be good for me, and I know that wasn't an easy choice for you.
And that's what she said to me in the previous letter, that she was willing to do that.
Wouldn't most parents say, I will take the entire blame here?
I would love to, but they have so much evidence on everybody that what are we supposed to do?
Again, it seems like Scott is manipulating his kids and us. He encourages Abby to talk more about his addiction and his dual life. Why does he do that? To gain sympathy. You tell your daughter. So if and when you do your interview, exaggerate about me, tell them I led a dual life involving drugs, alcohol, and women, and we can with them a little. Haha.
It was a joke. I was joking around.
Everything that he was doing and telling them was all for the sake of himself, for his own image.
He has done research on what would make them have a better story to sell. So being a drug addict, being an alcoholic, your audience would look at that and excuse it and maybe feel sorry for him.
You clearly told your kids to manipulate us, just like you were manipulating them.
I wanted to get some sort of movement on my case. I was going to do anything to get that.
I'm just so angry about what this dad did to his children. Angry as I am at Scott Cat, there was a moment I broke down in tears. And that is when, against all the rules, the sheriff allowed Hayden and Abby to see each other.
A serial bank robber who disturbingly recruited his own son and daughter to help him during a string of holdups has learned his fate.
Scott would have almost certainly been convicted at trial. He was facing up to 99 years.
He would have been convicted on all counts and got a maximum sentence. He did a very smart thing, taking a plea deal.
How do you plead to the offense? Are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily? Yes, sir. I hereby find you guilty of the offense of aggravated robbery, which is a first-degree felony.
Ronald Scott Cat took a deal to avoid trial and the potential of life in prison. He was sentenced to 24 years behind bars.
After the sentencing, a reporter asked Scott about the impact that his actions have had on his kids, and he seems to get genuinely emotional.
They're pretty strong. And they'll be fine. It won't be easy for them, but they've worked hard. They know how to do it.
Hayden Cat took his own plea deal and was sentenced to 10 years behind bars.
Well, what do you expect prison life to be like?
Hell. As close to hell on earth as you can get.
Abby took a plea deal for 5 years behind bars.
How do you plead to the offense?
5 years for an aggravated robbery conviction is a good deal for her. It's clear that prosecutors and the judge believed she was the least culpable of the three.
It breaks my heart that ultimately I'm the one that sent my sister to prison.
Do you think that you two can be close again after this?
Oh, this will never come between me and my sister.
And she forgives you?
I haven't asked her to forgive me. I think that the possibility that she might not is too scary a thought for me to think about.
If your father were right here, Hayden, what would you say to him?
You know, I'd tell him that I forgive him and that I don't want him to carry this burden around with him for the rest of his life.
And his sister tells me she feels the same way. Is what your dad did to you, is that forgivable?
I've forgiven him.
You have forgiven him.
I have to forgive him so I can start to live a normal life. I don't want hate, anger, any of that in my heart.
Now, the three of them, father, son, and daughter, are in the same jail, but they're separated. And for Abby, who tells me that her brother is her best friend and her soulmate, being separated from Hayden is devastating.
I think we both hate to see each other in this situation. And there's just nothing we can do for each other, you know? I feel like I can't help him, and I can't comfort him, and that makes me sad.
Okay, I want to show you something. So as we're sitting there interviewing Abby, we've got a surprise for her. Okay, so, boom, just boom it. So you may notice something's happening.
Yeah.
Sheriff Troy Nels makes this unprecedented gesture. He's allowing Abby and Hayden to meet. This just doesn't happen. So, with the help of the sheriffs, we asked if we might be able to bring Hayden in here for you to see him. If you're okay with that. I thought you might like that. So they're going right out, and he's gonna sit here. Look at that smile. How long has it been since you've seen him?
Since I've talked to him, a year.
Jailhouse rules are strict. Hayden is brought in shackled hands and feet, and the rules say no touching. But Hayden and Abby just can't seem to help themselves.
Hi, Abby.
Can you?
Are you doing okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just happy to see you.
Yeah, me too. Abby, I'm sorry, okay?
I don't blame you for anything, Hayden. Just know that I love you forever.
I love you too.
I don't blame you for anything. Nothing.
Okay.
And I want you to know that.
Okay.
We can see the future now, at least.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get to be normal brother and sister again.
Right.
I love you.
I love you too.
Can I give him a hug?
No, I can't hug you.
No?
No. It's gonna be a long time until I see you.
I know. I'm glad.
I know I can take care of myself, so I just worry about you, Abby.
I'm fine.
Okay.
And then we get the sign from the sheriff. They can hug. If you guys want to give each other a hug, the sheriff says it's okay.
Really?
Oh.
It could be 10 years before they see each other again. And if you listen closely, that's the sound our mics pick up of their hearts beating.
When I heard that heartbeat, I said to myself, please, please, somehow let them move ahead and break the chains of that father and live to have happy lives.
That'll be okay.
I know.
It's just gonna be a couple of years until I can see you.
When they asked me, is it okay for Abigail to hug her brother Hayden, I felt, why not? She needed that. They were kind of desperate souls there at that point in time.
I don't want you to go.
I know.
Thank you for the hug. I needed it.
I know.
All right, we're gonna have to come back.
All right, Abby, be strong, okay?
I love you.
Abby, I love you too. I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.
Allowing them to touch and hug that way, I felt was in many ways the beginning of some sort of a healing. There is a life thread between those two kids and even between the two kids and their father, still.
You know how a lot of people see a program on television and they go, oh, that's so sad, and then they forget about it? That's not what happened.
Turns out a 2020 viewer who actually works at the jailhouse saw the program.
Tonight on 2020, the unbelievable story of a father who turned his own kids into hardcore criminals.
Saw Abby and decided to open up her heart and her house to her, taking her in after her sentence was up.
Abby. So this was a really good break for Abby Catt, not to have to go to state prison and deal with hardened criminals.
We had her enrolled in the GED program. She was learning how to sew. We were doing everything we could to set her up for success.
It takes a little bit of time, too, to learn this, doesn't it?
Yes, but I learned very fast, and we get a lot done in here.
I don't think it's every day that you see a sheriff intervene and say, listen, have some mercy here.
Can I check your work?
To go out on a limb for a double bank robber, that never happens.
So here's a second chance, another opportunity for you.
And I thank you for that.
So make me proud
Yes,
while you're
sir,
here.
I will.
All right? All right, very well.
Thank you. I've been here for just over 2.5 years. Since the last time you saw me, a lot has changed. Emotionally, I'm doing a little bit better. And I have become a better and stronger person in here.
Abby apparently had no visitors while she was in jail. But her aunt and grandmother traveled from Oregon to the jail in Texas to visit Abby, and that's the first time they have seen her in 3 years.
It was so emotional seeing Abby.
Look at you.
I had so much hope for her, and all I could do was just give her a big hug and tell her how much we loved her.
Oh, I love you.
But this visit is also a cause for celebration because Abby learns that she got parole, and that means she's going to be released in just a few months.
Do you know how lucky you are?
Yes.
Okay.
You've been given an opportunity here that many others don't ever get, to start a new life.
Abby's new life on the outside is going to start with a woman she met on the inside, a volunteer sewing teacher named Susie Gregory.
See how you...
Now, Susie Gregory is a married mother of 2 grown sons.
And she watches the original 2020 piece.
I believe he feels remorse, but he's still gonna have my best interest through all of this.
Becomes very emotional about it. And she was open enough to try to give Abby a second chance.
We watched the 2020 show, and I said, this is just wrong. She should not be in jail for this. And I just felt like God put me in that sewing room for Abby. I couldn't balance robbing banks, driving a getaway car with the sweet little girl in the jail. They didn't equate. There's something wrong with that equation. I said, how would you feel if I would find someone in our church that would be willing to take you in when you got out? She said, well, could I meet them first? I said, well, I was kind of thinking about Steve and I. And she said, oh, I would love that. Thank you for everything. Oh, you're welcome.
It's pretty extraordinary that a volunteer sewing teacher at the county jail finds it in her heart to open her home to Abby. Gives you...
It didn't work out that way at all. And I put the blame squarely at her father, Scott Katz's feet.
In your wildest dreams, did you think that within a year you'd be back in doing time?
No.
It's been years since I've last seen Abby, and the last time we saw her, we thought that things were looking up. Well, it didn't turn out that way.
The last time we saw Abby, she was walking into a loving home with everything mapped out for her to start all over again.
Take me back to 2015. What was it like living with Susie?
It was amazing in some areas. In other areas, it was so different.
What was different about it?
Some of the rules, and
You just came from jail. Could any rules be any worse than the jail?
Right, but I didn't want any rules.
Our #1 requirement was that she attend church on Sunday morning. We said, school night, you really need to be in by 10 o'clock because you're going to have to get some homework done. On the weekends, you need to be home by midnight. Those were our rules. And she just started not coming home at all at night, or coming home at 2 or 3 in the morning.
My problem is that the only people that I knew were the people I had met in the jail. I'm bored. I need someone to hang out with. And slowly that kind of takes you down the wrong path.
Where did this wrong path lead you?
You know, maybe there was a little drugs involved here and there. Just the ripping and running.
After Abby was not coming home for several days on end, we told her we would change the locks if she didn't come home, and she didn't, so we changed the locks.
I would say in the end, I just left.
It was really hard. I really considered Abby to be the daughter of my heart. We let her see a family that cared for each other, that didn't rob banks. But it just seems like the more I reflect on it, I feel like she just wasn't ready for it.
People think leaving prison, hallelujah, you're out, you're free, it's a new life, but people don't understand that's a whole different set of challenges trying to reintegrate back into society.
Abby ends up in Laredo, Texas. She gets a job driving a pilot car for wide loads.
Laredo's a border town, 150 miles south of San Antonio. Thousands upon thousands of trucks go by there every day.
And that's where you met Ricardo Gonzalez, right?
Yeah.
A little eye roll there.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I'm just gonna say he's just not a good person.
When you look at Ricardo's rap sheet, which is really quite long, one after another arrests.
He's got convictions for theft, aggravated robbery,
terroristic threat of a family.
We all hung out and partied and
Can I ask what that means? Because I'm twice your age, I don't even know what that means anymore.
partied, you know, there's, well, obviously alcohol and maybe some cocaine and, you know, some weed, stuff like that. Whatever, I don't have another choice. You know, that's kind of how I felt. Oh, I don't have another choice. We'll see where this goes.
Where did it go?
Jail.
It's 1:30 a.m. in August 2016, and Abby goes with Ricardo Gonzalez to a Stripes gas station in Laredo.
I was high, passed out. I had parked at the Stripes while he was going to put gas in the car, and I ended up falling asleep right away.
What happens?
Next thing, I was woken up by the police knocking on my window. Pulled me out of the car and onto the ground and handcuffed me. So they say, do you realize that he's over here robbing people in the store? And I said, no, I didn't realize that. I'm sorry.
She ends up in the car with a guy who allegedly holds somebody at gunpoint.
Well, that's clearly a parole violation. Clearly, she's back in trouble again. Come on. Wow. Deja vu. All over again.
Ricardo pleads not guilty to aggravated robbery, and his trial is scheduled this fall.
Abby is never indicted for the holdup at the gas station. However, she has violated her parole.
She had not been regularly reporting to her parole officer for the previous crime.
And she gets held in this jail for over a year. When you're sitting in that jail in Laredo, did you think about Sheriff Nels? And you know, you had promised him that you'd stay on track.
Of course.
Didn't that go through your mind?
Of course. And not just him, but everybody that was involved. And myself, too. I was disappointed in myself, just as much as everybody else was disappointed in me. But it's always better to be in jail than it is to be dead.
Did you ever think growing up that that's the kind of thing that you would say to yourself in your head? It's better to be in jail than being dead?
Oh, no. I would always say I would never go to jail.
What happened was reality. It's not an easy fix. But going back to a behavior that is inappropriate is really just part of the long healing process.
The person who has set all of this in motion, Scott Catt, declined to do another interview with us. But Abby says that she has visited him in prison and still forgives him.
I think sometimes I blame myself more than him.
But he invited you to go on a bank heist.
I know he loves me. I know he loves me as his daughter. So it's hard sometimes to really get what happened.
How often do you think about your brother?
Every day, yeah. Both of them every day. I'm definitely waiting on them to get out.
If you could send a message to Hayden, what would you say?
I love you.
Anything else?
No, just I love you. Waiting on him to come home, for sure. Waiting on Hayden to come home. I just want him to be okay when he gets out, because I know how hard it was for me. I just worry about him, because he's really got to be strong when he gets out. He has no idea. He has to be so strong. Life out here is just different from in there.
Right after our interview with Abby, we got a chance to bring her together again with Sheriff Troy Nels, who tried so hard to help her after her first arrest.
I want to have an opportunity to say a few things to her.
Now turning into the small road that leads to this prison in the middle of, it's like prairie land. It's been about 6 years since I last saw Hayden. He had just taken a plea deal for a 10-year prison sentence. And I'm here to see how he's doing behind bars. Hayden.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. You're looking good.
Thank you.
Very tan.
Been working outside. Feel good.
How's things?
Great, actually.
Really?
Yes, sir.
I mean, last time we spoke, about almost 6 years ago, you said that you expected prison to be as close to hell on earth as anything you can imagine.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it's been that.
Not at all. You know, I came in here very lost, very broken. In here, I found a piece I was missing. I found a faith in Christ. I feel more free and I feel more alive in here than I did out in the world. And I see now that I was basically the walking dead out there.
You know, in many ways, your father was with you but abandoned you. Still, the last time we spoke, you were pretty forgiving of him. Do you feel the same way now?
I do. You know, I think that he did the best job with me and Abby that he could. He lost his way, that's for sure.
Have you been in contact with him?
Usually every week, through our letters.
What do you talk about?
I think that he's found the same faith and redemption that I have here as well.
Do you really think he's changed?
I do.
What about Abby? Have you kept up with your sister?
You know, I don't hear from Abby as much as I would like to, but I love her so much. And I can't wait to show her what these 6 years have meant to me.
Do you think that Abby can turn her life around?
Absolutely. The best thing that we have right now is we're both young and we've learned huge life-shattering lessons at a young age. I really feel like it's put us ahead of our peers.
You feel like you're ahead of your peers?
Absolutely. So in the next 3 years, I'll be going home and I can't wait for it. I'm gonna attack life with everything I got.
As for Abby's future, there is big news in her life. She's now 25 years old and she went to work in a fish processing plant. There, she met her now boyfriend, Trenzel, and they're now expecting a baby. Look at that!
Yeah,
That's amazing! Do we know the gender?
Oh boy. I'm 6.5 months pregnant currently with my first child. Everything changes once you find out you're pregnant. You can't be selfish anymore, that's for sure.
I think she's gonna be a very wonderful mother. Too easy, probably.
I don't go to the store to buy myself things anymore. I go to the store to buy him things, and that feels so awesome. That's cool.
We had a chance to reunite Abby with the sheriff who helped her years ago.
Can I give you a hug?
I just want to see a bright future for you.
I just wanted to tell you I thank you for everything that you have done for me. Obviously, I let a lot of people down, and I apologize to you if that was embarrassing to you. I learned from it all, and I came out a stronger woman, and I thank you for believing in me then and believing in me now.
Abby's aunt has invited Abby to live with her once her baby's born. You seem to have had so many chances, right? Mm-hmm. With Sheriff Nels, with Susie. What makes you think it's going to actually be different this time?
My son and my relationship. Those are two things that I can't lose. So, that's it.
You're saying the stakes are too high this time?
Yeah, I have too much. There's two people that need me. You start to put your life into perspective and like the person you are and the people you want to be around. And now we just have our son and he's gonna be with us and that's all we need.
Winning the lottery.
I said, you won $30 million. Do not show this to anybody.
But everybody's there saying, give me, let me have.
Women with car full of kids would pull up and say, oh, the Lord led me to you. And I would be like, no, that would be Google Maps, honey.
One of the things that people talk about when they talk about winning the lottery is that it's cursed.
I really would like my old life back where I could walk the streets like a normal person.
But then all of a sudden, things go silent. And nobody knows where Abraham Shakespeare is.
Hey, have you heard from Abe? No, I haven't heard from him. Have you seen him? No, I haven't seen him either.
A lot of people said, well, I think he took his money and wants to get away from all this.
So how many people in Polk County owed Abe Shakespeare money?
Over 20, maybe close to 40.
There are all these people with this web of connections to Abraham Shakespeare, and any one of them might be someone who has... We all dream of a moment in life that will instantly change everything. A stroke of luck, and nothing will ever be the same again. That's exactly what happened to a man with a name you will never forget, Abraham Shakespeare.
While Abraham Shakespeare was on a trucking route with his colleague, Michael Ford, they stopped at a convenience store.
Mike Ford, who's the driver, says, you need anything? Abraham, who's staying in the truck, says, yeah, you know, give me 2 quick picks.
Right here at this gas station in a town with a name you just can't make up, Frostproof, Florida. 1 stop, 2 quick pick lottery tickets, one of which would change his life forever. A jackpot worth $30 million.
Hello, Florida. It's Wednesday, November 15th. New York tonight's winning numbers, 12.
When Abe realized he'd won the lottery, he wasn't even sure it was real. So he brought the ticket to his cousin, Ashley McMillan.
I looked up at him, and I looked at the ticket again, and I looked up at him. I said, you won $30 million. He said, okay, I just wasn't sure. I needed somebody I could trust to tell me that. And I was like, do not show this to anybody else. You go to Tallahassee and cash this in immediately.
News of Abe's win quickly spread across the state of Florida.
It was at this convenience store that Abraham Shakespeare bought the lotto ticket that changed his life.
A Lakeland man is waking up a millionaire this morning. 40-year-old Abraham Shakespeare. He had the winning numbers, and Mr. Shakespeare, I'd like to give you my phone number.
Yeah. He opted to take home the lump sum of $17 million. But then after taxes, he ended up with $12 million.
Still, you know, $12 million is a huge chunk of change for a man with a pretty humble background who came from the central Florida town of Lakeland.
Lakeland is small town feel with a little bit of city in it, beautiful lakes, areas are quiet, some parts are rural, and it's in between Orlando and Tampa.
And here in Lakeland, Abe lived in a modest neighborhood where many folks struggled to make ends meet.
This is the famous Abraham Shakespeare's ex-home, where he rented and lived.
This is where they lived before.
This is where they lived before he won the lottery. It was set up just like this. Nothing's changed besides painting.
Pretty modest place.
Pretty modest.
Abraham's life has been hardscrabble for its duration. Abraham dropped out of school. He had been in a little bit of trouble as a youth, nothing major, just little petty theft kind of things. And as he grows older, he takes on a series of odd jobs. Riding the garbage truck for the city of Lakeland, sweeping up in somebody's barber shop.
Abraham had a strong friendship with Greg Smith, who owned a barber shop.
He was at my barber shop as a cleanup guy, sweeping up and mopping floors. He was a less fortunate person, so let him work, get paid, or buy him something to eat. Abraham was an easygoing person. He took life just as it came.
What kind of guy was he?
He was a humble guy. Humble, respectful. You know, he wasn't a hard ass. He was a good dude. He didn't smoke, he didn't drink, he didn't do dope. He was just trying to survive, trying to make it in the world as most people do, but without being in the limelight of problems and trouble.
Even though he didn't have a whole lot, he was very content.
Abraham has all of this money. He can move anywhere he wants to, but instead, he stays home. He stays in Lakeland.
I think to a lot of people's surprise, Abraham did not go buck wild, as they say, when he got his money. He didn't overindulge.
Abraham says, I want to buy a car. So off me and Abraham went to the car dealership. Abraham walks up on this particular car and he liked it. And I'm like, yeah, Abraham, that's nice, but you know, it's a used car. Used or whatever, it was a gem to him.
He said he would go to Denny's to eat breakfast. He bought a Rolex watch from a pawn shop.
He come to the shop every day, millionaire, come to the shop, sweep the floor.
Yes.
You better not drop a penny on the floor. First thing he gonna say, he gonna pick it up, he gonna say, pennies make dollars.
Abraham doesn't spend much money on himself, but the one thing that he really wants is a new house. So he buys a 5,000 square foot, $1 million mansion.
Prior to winning the lottery, he would walk around this exclusive neighborhood and he would dream about living in one of those homes. He was able to buy his dream home for $1 million in the gated community.
And Abe quickly opened his doors to friends and even strangers. And one of those strangers was Centuria Butler, who was at the time down on her luck when she met Abe at a party he threw at his new house.
At the end of the night, he was like, where are you going? I was like, I might be staying in my car tonight. He was like, well, you know, you can stay here until you get on your feet. He literally let me as a stranger move into his house.
A friendship blossomed. Centuria and Abe grew close, and eventually they welcomed a son named Jeremiah.
When the baby is out and they bring him over to the bed, Abraham with his long arms, he swoops in and he takes the baby right out of her hands. And he's holding him. And he's like, yeah, I got my snook and pook.
But for Abe, it wasn't enough just to provide for his own family. Abe seemingly wanted to help everyone. And pretty soon, his generosity spread throughout Lakeland.
When Abraham won the lottery, all of Lakeland and Polk County won the lottery.
People did not hesitate to come to Abraham and say, you know, I need money for my mortgage. They're going to foreclose on my house. They're going to repossess my car. I've got to bury my mother. Everything you can think of that someone needed.
Now you're dealing with all kind of people you want to look out for and people you don't want to look out for, but everybody's there saying, give me, let me have.
Abraham wins this huge lottery, and then within a day, everyone wants a piece.
I couldn't even talk with him 10 minutes. His phone was ringing. By the time he get off the phone with that one, another one would call him.
There were days that random women with a car full of kids would pull up and say, oh, the Lord led me to you. And I would be like, no, that would be Google Maps, honey.
It got tiresome to him. He got fed up with it a lot.
I really would like my old life back where I could walk the streets like a normal person, but got people coming up asking for money.
And Abe's fortunes might be about to take an even more serious turn for the worse.
His friend comes forward and says, hey, that's my ticket. All those multi-million dollars, they're mine.
Abraham Shakespeare was on the verge of losing his entire fortune.
When Abe Shakespeare moved into that gated community, he was stepping into his life of luxury as a recent lottery winner. But those gates still couldn't keep people out. Friends, neighbors, even strangers still visited, asking for a favor, a loan, or a handout.
I think it caused him more harm than good. I don't think he enjoyed that money.
It was like, I wish I didn't even have no money. He was dead serious.
There's something called the lottery curse. Lottery winners go bankrupt. They are killed, robbed, kidnapped, and scammed till the end of days.
Most people work and struggle to get millions. When it's handed to you, it's an easy come, easy go, and you're open game. And if you're not prepared for it, you're screwed with it.
Abe tried to manage that flood of requests, turning some of those handouts into loans, but this was far from a perfect system.
One of the things that Abraham did was he set up a business venture in which he became the hood's bank.
But that also meant that he had to make arrangements with them for when they would pay back and how much they would pay back. This was becoming overwhelming.
Abe was giving out money faster than he could keep track of. And then things took an unexpected turn with that coworker on the trucking route, the guy who bought the winning lottery ticket for him, Mike Ford.
Suddenly, there's a lawsuit against Abraham filed by Mike Ford, who is claiming that Abraham stole the tickets.
I was able to immediately get in contact with him. He was upset because he thought that Michael Ford was a friend.
To defend himself, Abe brought in a high-profile attorney named Willie Gary.
Willie Gary is a force, very self-confident. Willie has a private jet. He drives around in Rolls Royces. He wears, of course, custom-made suits.
Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen.
Mike Ford's claim was that Abraham had gone into his wallet, had taken the lottery ticket. Abraham denies that he ever stole that ticket.
In response to the lawsuit, Abe alleged it was never about a stolen ticket. It was about a demand for $1 million.
Abe's claim was that Mike basically went to him saying, hey, I want $1 million. And Abraham said, I'm not giving you any money. And that's when Mike said, well, I'm going to sue you.
Ford has a different account. He says that when he asked Abraham about the ticket, Abe offered him $1 million, but later refused to pay, saying Ford couldn't prove the ticket was his.
Ford versus Shakespeare was a 5-day trial. Michael Ford did his best to present his case, but the jury only took an hour to find against him.
It was a battle over millions in that courthouse, but in the end, he got to keep all of his money. And then he met someone. He met someone who promised to help him, who promised to protect his fortune, to secure his future. Was Abe's luck finally turning around?
A woman named Doris Moore, they call her Dee Dee, Florida-born, very ambitious, pretty smart. She comes along.
In fall of 2008, Dee Dee goes to this small business conference where she meets the realtor who sold Abraham his $1 million mansion.
And she thought it would be cool to write a book about his life.
Dee Dee is introduced to Abraham, and he agrees to let her profile him.
She wanted to sit down and interview us for her book.
Dee Dee Moore seemed like she was a very professional woman. She was in a suit and heels and hose and everything, and said that she owned a company, American Medical Professionals.
Dee Dee Moore is a self-made businesswoman, a very successful businesswoman with a medical staffing company.
And the more time Dee Dee spent around Abe, the more involved she became, not just as an author, but also as an advisor.
She learns that he has all this money out there in the community. She said, you need a financial advisor, you need some financial help. I am an expert at that. The next thing you know, Dee Dee is Abraham Shakespeare's sidekick and his emissary who goes around to collect money.
She had her own money. She didn't need his money. And that became a trust factor for him.
He's like, she has her own business. She, know how to run things. She gonna help me with my LLCs.
Dee Dee wasn't just helping Abe with his money. She also started recording their conversations, capturing these behind-the-scene moments where, even with her help, he still appeared to be fed up.
Do you get tired of people asking you for money all the time, Abe? Give me your opinion on it.
I've been tired. A year ago.
All of a sudden, things go silent, and nobody knows where Abraham Shakespeare is.
None of his children had heard from him. His mother hadn't heard from him. Nobody had heard from him.
And just like that, Abraham Shakespeare disappeared. No calls, no goodbyes, not a word to the people he loved. It was like he vanished into thin air. Abraham Shakespeare seems determined to shake that lottery curse, especially after his generosity cost him almost all of his jackpot millions. Now he's fighting to get his finances back under control.
Everything was well, and then it got quiet all of a sudden.
In April of 2009, There's a stir going on in the community about nobody having seen Abraham Shakespeare in a while. A little buzz at first, and then it gets louder and louder and louder and becomes a thing.
People start to talk, hey, have you heard from Abe? No, I haven't heard from him. Have you seen him? No, I haven't seen him either. And that kind of started to snowball when everybody started to realize, you know, I haven't heard from him either.
And so at what point did you notice that Abe might have gone missing?
When I would call, he would always answer me or respond back. And when I didn't get that, then it began to make, somewhat of a red flag.
There was this widespread speculation around Lakeland that Abe finally just got fed up with all these people thinking that he should share his fortune with everyone. And as a result, he decided to skip town.
It was common knowledge that Abraham said that he got tired of people asking him for money.
I really would like my old life back where I could walk the streets like a normal person.
When nobody's seen him, for the first couple months, we were like, okay, you know, he did say that he was gonna go away for a while and just let things, you know, kind of die down and chill, and then he was gonna come back.
And friends say Abe had a very good reason not to skip town for good. Even though Abe and Centauria at this point were no longer living together, Centauria says Abe was still a devoted father to their son, Jeremiah.
He was just like so excited about being a father, and he would take a picture every day.
Finally, in November of 2009, almost 6 months since Abe disappeared, Abe's cousin, Cedric Edom, decides to file a missing persons report at the Polk County Sheriff's Office.
Abraham's cousin, Cedric Edom, reported him missing to our missing persons unit, and that's where the whole investigation started.
But the investigation gets off to a slow start. Lots of people are still convinced that there's an innocent explanation for Abe's disappearance.
A lot of people said, well, I mean, I don't think he's missing. I think he took his money and wants to get away from all this.
One of Abe's friends, Judy Hagens, even told the police Abe had mentioned leaving the country.
Did he ever discuss any intricate plans with you that, hey, I'm gonna disappear and nobody's ever gonna see me again?
Yeah,
and
he did.
What was that about? Tell me.
He really wanted to move to Jamaica.
Still, there was an aspect of Abe's disappearance that puzzled some of his friends and family members. All of a sudden, they started receiving these random text messages from him.
All of these people that Abraham would normally just pick up a phone and talk to or stop by to see were getting text messages.
So at this point, there are a bunch of people coming out of the woodwork who are saying that they've heard from Abe.
Right.
I got a text at one point.
And what did that text say?
He was out and just didn't want to be bothered.
And the mother of his child?
Centauria, she received a text message saying he was going on vacation and leaving her for another woman.
I'm texting Abraham, and I'm getting texts back, oh, I'm leaving you for this woman, and we're going to the Bahamas.
I got a reply from his number. And the reply was, I don't need nobody filing no missing persons report on me. I'm fine.
But Ashley and others close to Abe say they had some serious doubts about whether he was actually the person sending those texts, even though they were coming from his phone.
I knew that wasn't my cousin. This is not Abraham texting me.
There's no way that he could have constructed those text messages because Abraham Shakespeare could barely read and write. In fact, his cousin, Ashley McMillan, used to read him the greeting cards here at this Walgreens where she used to work.
Before he won the lottery, he was always buying Hallmark cards. He was like, hey, can you come read this card to me? I need something that conveys like empathy or sympathy. I asked him one time, I was like, why can't you just read the card? And he looked at me, dead square in the face, and was like, I cannot read.
It was so suspicious as people were getting text messages because he couldn't read or write. And if it wasn't Abraham, who were the text messages coming from?
That was one of the biggest hurdles we had in the beginning of the case, was nailing down when the last time not only was Abraham seen,
right,
but when someone physically and actually talked to him on the phone.
So this case is such a mess that in the beginning, you don't even have a starting point.
Every time we would talk to someone, they had heard something different. It just seemed like every story was leading back to Dee Dee Moore. And so we're just like, okay, we've got to talk to Dee Dee Moore because this lady Dee Dee is associated to every story that we're being told.
For Abe's friends and family, it makes sense that if anyone knows where he is, it would be Dee Dee. I mean, after all, she has been working closely with him to get his finances in order.
As their friendship began to blossom, Abraham and Dee Dee Moore hung out quite a bit. She became a major asset to him by helping Abraham collect on money that was owed to him.
Everybody was very uncertain. Dee Dee had an answer.
When police interviewed Dee Dee about Abraham's whereabouts, she says nothing's wrong. In fact, I'm in constant contact with him.
Her statement was that she talks to him all the time. If we wanted to see him, she would make sure that she brought him to us. So she sends him a text message in front of us and it's like, Abraham, call me, please call me. We wait a little bit and nothing. And she's like, well, I'll call you in the morning as soon as we hear from him. We'll set up a meeting. So we left.
Although Dee Dee can't actually connect police with Abe on the phone, she is able to show them that video that she'd taken of Abe where he says he wants to skip town.
So where do you want to go to?
It don't matter to me. I'm not a picky person.
Are you going to miss your home?
Yep, I miss it, but life goes on.
Weeks go by and there's no word from him, and suspicion begins to mount. But then this startling development. Out of the blue, Abe's mother, Elizabeth Walker, is having dinner at a Cracker Barrel and
Elizabeth's phone rings. And she opens her phone and sees it's Abraham calling. And she said, oh my God, it's Abraham.
Abraham Shakespeare is reported missing on November 9th. Most of his friends and family say they have not seen him or heard his voice since April. Is there a chance at this point in the investigation that Abe Shakespeare might just turn up somewhere?
I think we thought that was a real true possibility. Once we put him in the national database as missing, we got calls from all over the United States, and some of them with super confidence that it was Abraham. It wasn't him, but we had to deal with a lot of that.
With all of these empty leads, investigators are now looking at other angles.
So there's a whole pool of potential individuals that you could look at with some sort of motive if his disappearance did, result in foul play.
We certainly hope Abraham's alive and well, and he has successfully hidden himself away. But our investigation doesn't lead us to believe that at this time.
At this point, detectives are not only concerned that lottery winner Abe Shakespeare might be missing, they're concerned he might be dead. So how many people in Polk County owed Abe Shakespeare money?
Over 20, maybe close to 40.
And so some of them would probably not be so upset if he never appeared again.
That was the problem, is that there was a lot of people that owed him money.
But investigators are particularly interested in a man who had claimed that Abe owed him something.
Presiding, please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you have a cell phone.
Michael Ford lost a lawsuit to him, claimed the winning lottery ticket was his, went all the way to a trial. He's probably pissed off.
$30 million of upset.
Michael, we're up here talking to you about Abraham Shakespeare. How do you know that name?
Because I went to trial with him for a lotto ticket.
Okay.
And at no time did you see Abraham Shakespeare while you were in Florida? And just for the record, you didn't in any way harm, hurt, or cause Mr. Shakespeare to be missing at this time, did you?
No, sir.
And we actually pulled his phone records to confirm that where he was, and he was in Georgia. I mean, we looked at him that hard, but it was more of an elimination thing.
Well, detectives have a long list of possible suspects to go through. Marissa Green at the Ledger in Lakeland is focused on one person, Dee Dee Moore.
I felt like I had a vested interest in finding Abraham Shakespeare, just like the detectives. A couple of weeks before it was officially announced that Abraham Shakespeare was missing, I met Dee Dee Moore over the phone for the first time. She promised that she could produce him and I could interview him, but that never happened, and it went silent. And so that's when my red flag started to raise about this woman and who she was.
Then in December 2009, Marissa is able to convince Dee Dee to come down to the Ledger newsroom for an interview with her and her editor, Lyle McBride. Dee Dee tells them that at the time Abe disappeared, most of his lottery jackpot was long gone.
And he didn't have any money left, really.
Right, except for what he was collecting, the regular
The few
little
that were
loans.
paying him
The
back.
few that were paying him back, that's what he was living off of, because everything else was froze. Because all his other money was tied up.
She said everybody else was taking advantage of him, but not her, because she had her own money.
That's the kind of person I am. If you've asked my family and my friends, I've been that way my whole life. I always helped people.
During that 3-hour interview, Dee Dee now tells a different story. Now, she insists that Abe left town to avoid having to pay money in the child support fight he is supposedly having with the mother of his son, Centoria Butler.
And so he was very upset and adamant that he would rather spend 179 days in prison, if they find him, than to pay her anything.
There was never a plan to go to court to get child support. I never attempted to go to court to get child support. That was the end of the story.
So during the interview, we played good cop, bad cop, and I was the bad cop. I was the one asking the hard questions of Dee Dee Moore.
Where is Abraham? Well, Abraham knows he was supposed to go for contempt of child support, okay?
Well,
and
that's the question I asked. Where is Abraham?
I do not know. And I told the cops this. I do not know his address. I didn't want to know because of the fact that we knew he would have a warrant out for his arrest.
That interview with Dee Dee Moore at the Ledger, it ends without any new information regarding Abe's whereabouts. But then a month and a half after he was reported missing, there's a surprising turn of events involving Abe's mother, Elizabeth Walker.
Dee Dee befriended her. And they're having dinner together one night. The phone rings. And it's Abraham. Hi, Mom, I love you. Oh, baby, I miss you. Where are you? I can't hear you. It's so loud. I can't really hear you, but I'll be home soon. I love you. I love you, too. And that's the end of the call. Dee Dee says, oh, my God, he called you. See, he's okay. And Miss Walker appears to be relieved, but not quite sure, because Abraham sounded different.
Abe's mom is suspicious.
She was suspicious, didn't think it sounded like her son, but in the back of her mind, maybe he really does have a cold, maybe he's really sick.
Turns out the police are able to trace that phone call, and it leads them not to Abraham Shakespeare, alive and well, but to a very different person.
We had that 30-day location tracker on the phone, so we pulled it up, and it's at the Lakeland Mall.
Will that phone call help cops unravel the mystery of what really happened to Abe Shakespeare? Three weeks after Abe Shakespeare's disappearance is reported to police, the full attention of investigators is now on Dee Dee Moore. She was supposed to have been his financial savior, but they've discovered that she has taken over his lottery fortune. What did you see when you looked into his finances?
Abraham didn't have access to a penny of his money. Dee Dee had not only taken over all of his banking accounts, she had transferred money out of the banking accounts.
Dee Dee tells Abraham that for his benefit, he needs to sign over his assets, and so that she can have control of those assets. That's the way she can protect him from anybody coming after him for any money.
She was now living in his house. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what would make her want to live in this man's house?
Once we were going deep into the investigation, we tried to find out everything we could about Dee Dee, and we found out, she wasn't who she portrayed herself to be.
Dee Dee Moore's got a checkered past. She's been in trouble with the law before. She's no angel.
After graduating from Plant City High School in Florida, Dee Dee was eventually able to start up that medical staffing company. But she had her share of run-ins with the law, a no-contest plea for petty theft in 1999, and a guilty plea for check fraud back in 2002. there was also one incident where she falsely claimed she was carjacked after falling behind on her vehicle payments.
So she drives the SUV down a dark country road one night, and two Latino men, this is her story, hijack her SUV, tie her up, rape her, beat her, and throw her on the side of the road, and take off with the SUV. Long story short, she had hired these guys to take the car and hide the vehicle from everybody.
Dee Dee was convicted of insurance fraud. And that background raises a lot of eyebrows among detectives investigating Abe Shakespeare's disappearance.
She definitely has the ability to manipulate, to lie, to concoct stories and so forth, yeah.
We were really convinced that Dee Dee definitely had more information, and we wanted to push some buttons with Dee Dee.
So police pressed Dee Dee for answers about how she's taken over Abe's finances.
You are in essence Abraham, correct?
Yes.
But my point in all of this is all of these people plus all of the real estate comes up to how much?
But you've got to...
No, comes up to how much, Dee Dee? Comes up to how much? So, okay, so I've done the rough math, okay? It comes up to almost $3.5 million.
Okay, if I'm guilty of anything, I'm guilty of helping him avoid child support.
I'm not worried about any of that.
Investigators may have their suspicions about Dee Dee, but what they don't have is any hard evidence tying her to Abe's disappearance. Meanwhile, Dee Dee turns to the media to plead her side of the story.
Because of these people.
Are you talking about your meeting with the cops?
Yeah, because of these people, my life has been turned up in the last 2 weeks. All my house has been looked over twice. They looked through all my papers. They took my computers and downloaded their hard drive. I want this out of my life. And I feel sorry for Abraham. But it's hardened my heart. I don't know if I'll ever help anybody out anymore.
Then 8.5 months after Abe's disappearance and just a couple of days after Christmas, there's a development that sends this case in a dramatic new direction.
The thing that really turns the case was when Elizabeth Walker got that call from her long missing son. Dee Dee Moore was at dinner with Elizabeth Walker when Abraham called.
Abraham's mother called me, and she's like, Detective Clark, Abraham called me and told me Merry Christmas and that he's okay, but she said, it didn't really sound like my son. And I said, what number did that call come from? And she's like, it said private.
It didn't take long for them to look at phone records.
Investigators quickly learned two very critical pieces of information. First, that number is not Abraham Shakespeare's. Second, someone with that phone itself is located very close by, a local mall. So they rush to that local mall to figure out who it is. And incredibly, at almost the same moment they drive in, so does Dee Dee Moore.
And then in drives Dee Dee. It's like a gift from God dropped to us. Crazy. We watch her get out, meet with this guy, hand him a wad of cash.
And this was just, you know, stinking the high heavens.
They talk for a minute, she gets in her car, and she drives away to the north, and this car with this gentleman in it drives away to the south. So we get behind the car, we're following it, and we're like, let's stop it. We go to stop the car. So I just jump out, and I go to the guy, and I go, you can either park your car, get in our car, and come with us, or we're gonna try to put you in prison the rest of your life. And he goes, well, I guess we're coming with you.
The man in the car, the man who got the cash from Dee Dee and who owns the phone that made the call to Abe's mom, he is none other than the friend of Abe's who ran the local barber shop, Greg Smith.
Do you know Dee Dee Moore? That's what they asked me. Now I'm thinking to myself, Lord Jesus, what is going on? You know, did you make a phone call to Abraham's mother? I said, yeah. Well, I make the phone call to his mother, pertaining to be Abraham. I'm supposed to mimic his voice and the way he talked best I can and tell his mom that I'm okay.
Said she's gonna pay me $350. I didn't feel right about it, but I thought I was helping Miss Walker feel better because she's been worried about her son. Greg told them then, I think that Abraham is dead. They said, we think so too. And they said, you know, we need you to keep meeting with Dee Dee because we think she has something to do with this. And we need you to work for us.
And I'm thinking to myself, man, when I needed this man stepped in and helped me.
And the reality of what's at stake sinks in for Greg Smith.
The light click on, okay, she actually is under investigation for killing Abraham Shakespeare. I was like, you know, I'll do what I can.
And so begins an elaborate plot to take down Dee Dee Moore and prove her involvement in Abraham Shakespeare's disappearance. Now, this is going to involve not only an undercover sting, a can of Red Bull, but also a discovery made right in this yard. For Abraham Shakespeare, the good news is you've won the lottery. That's also the bad news.
As of this time, we don't know the whereabouts of Abraham Shakespeare.
Detectives are not only concerned that Abe Shakespeare might be missing, they're concerned he might be dead.
We've got to talk to Dee Dee Moore because everybody is bringing her name up. Whatever story they had, everything just kept circling back.
They're saying that I took a gun and killed another human being.
What they need the evidence.
But I guarantee you, Ronald has killed him.
We're like, Ronald? We've never heard of a Ronald.
She kept saying, Ronald killed him. Ronald shot him.
Why are you laughing?
Because
a man is dead. He's been murdered.
I liked Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. There are so many things that proves my innocence.
Do you understand how listening to you is bewildering?
Well, do you understand how listening to you is just, it sounds like a bunch of stupidity?
Hello, Florida. It's Wednesday, November 15th. And New York tonight's winning numbers.
Abraham Shakespeare won $31 million in the Florida lottery, going from rags to riches.
But as happens to so many lottery winners, Abe is besieged by people asking him for some of that cash.
I really would like my old life back where I could walk the streets like a normal person, but got people coming up asking for money.
Everybody feels that's their opportunity to get paid.
But then he suddenly disappears.
But no one has seen Shakespeare, including his mother, who's beginning to think the lotto prize may have been a curse.
Yeah, I'm just hoping to hear something.
There is contact. Family and friends receive text messages from Abraham. In fact, his own mother gets a phone call from Abraham.
I answered the phone. I said, hello?
Upon further investigation, detectives learned that the voice was Greg Smith, the owner of the barbershop where Abraham would work.
I was like, Mom, how you doing? This Abraham.
Greg claims he faked that call at the request of a woman named Dee Dee Moore, who was helping Abe with his finances, and the police start investigating her.
Despite running a legitimate business, Dee Dee Moore has a checkered past. She's been in trouble with the law before.
Greg decides he does not want to go to jail, so he helps investigators with their case. And one way that he does it is by becoming a confidential informant.
I didn't set a plan out to go catch her. I just told him I'd see what I could do.
I'm getting ready to talk to Dee Dee. She's getting in the car now.
When I interviewed Greg Smith back in 2012, he showed me how he secretly recorded conversations with her using something he called a catch can, which he invented himself.
It's a Red Bull can.
Look at that thing. I wouldn't figure out how it opens even.
It actually separates in between.
Oh yeah? Wow. That's brilliant.
That's the Dee Dee Moore catch can.
I worked undercover narcotics for 8 years, and I wouldn't have came up with this. Almost all of the meetings were in a car. Here it is sitting in front of her. She doesn't even know it's there.
Well, they'll never know about you anyway. I never give you up. You know what I'm saying?
Ever.
Man, listen, I'm so deep in it with you right now. If you go down, I go down right now.
Yeah.
It was ingenious, but he even took it a step further. He would be smoking small cigars as they talked. So that she wouldn't get suspicious, he would make it a point to flick ashes on or into the can as they were talking.
Pretty simple trick, but it worked good, and it gave us a good recording of the car.
I just need some time to get freaking Abraham back.
Dee Dee is recorded telling Greg that Abe is alive. After she had asked Greg to make that fake call to Abe's mom, Dee Dee now asks him to call someone else to continue spreading the news that Abe is okay.
Should I say that he talked to his mom?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's gonna make it more convincing.
But he told her if she tells anybody, he'll never call back. Okay. You make sure you say that.
That sounds a little bit more convincing.
Say that if she tells anybody, Abraham told her he would never call back.
What's up, Dee Dee?
Greg later reports back to her that the call went well.
So you tell him, yeah, he's still living.
I said, yeah, he's still living. I said, if anybody want to know if he's still living, yeah, he's still living.
At one point, the investigation moves to a local hotel where Dee Dee Moore and Greg Smith meet.
So Dee Dee and Greg go to the hotel to follow up that fake phone call with a fake letter?
Yes, they did.
These rooms is expensive.
We're listening as they're in the hotel.
That's not the same laptop you had, is it? You went and bought that today?
Here comes a brand new laptop and a brand new printer. But she is very paranoid now about leaving any traces that can be taken back to her.
So she's dressed in full hospital gown, gloves, face mask, hair, so that while she's typing, that none of her DNA gets on the paper or gets on the envelope or anything.
She is determined. You will not find any Dee Dee Moore DNA here.
Chocolate, I don't want you to show this letter to the cops. I just want you to tell them that it was me.
They spent about 2 hours composing this letter to Abe's mother, with Greg offering suggestions to Dee Dee about how Abe would actually talk.
And we're down there laughing because Greg's like, no, maybe you should say bro instead of brother.
If I had to take this letter here, and I had to read this letter, and I had to understand this letter, the letter is convincing to me. It couldn't have came from you.
How do you do it to anybody, but how do you do it to a 70-plus-year-old woman who hasn't seen her son in months? I mean, devious, manipulative, evil.
He puts it in the mailbox, he leaves, I take the letter out of the mailbox and put it in evidence.
Remember, those close to Abe knew that he could barely read or write. I mean, this is a copy of the letter.
Yeah.
And for a guy who, even though his name was Shakespeare, I mean,
right.
He didn't write. This is like 6 or 7 pages.
Exactly.
I only wrote you just in case you really worried, just in case you can't keep this to yourself and you're really worried about me. Here's a Christmas present to you.
The letter is more like a treatise about everything that Abraham would be trying to explain to his mother about why he went away and what hassle he went through once he got all the money, and how sometimes he wishes he didn't have all this money, but that he's doing okay and he's trying to stay away and get his life together. I mean, it went on and on and on for pages.
But what Dee Dee Moore does next will remove all doubt Abraham Shakespeare is not okay at all.
With a body, I can do a plea deal with him.
What do you want?
50 grand.
If you do this, you're going to be a very popular person. You're going to be a legend.
By this point, all of the law enforcement officers' instincts are firing on code red. They feel that Dee Dee Moore knew what happened to Abraham Shakespeare. What they need the evidence.
So at one point, you ask the sheriff to hold a press conference.
As of this time, we don't know the whereabouts of Abraham Shakespeare.
And at that point, the sheriff says, hey, we think that Abe Shakespeare may have been met with foul play.
We suspect that he's met an untimely death.
He also names Dee Dee Moore as a person of interest.
I must tell you, folks, that certainly it is fair to call Dee Dee Moore a person of interest.
After that press conference, I believe she felt the walls closing in on her.
So immediately she calls Greg Smith. We've got to do something. Did you see what Sheriff Judd's saying about me?
And that's when the next phase of the case begins, convincing Dee Dee that if Abe is actually dead, to admit what really happened.
They come up with this idea that they will get a fall guy who will say, you know, I'll take the blame and say that I killed Abraham Shakespeare.
We call a guy named Mike Smith. I mean, he's just a very large, intimidating fella, and one of the best undercover guys I've ever worked with.
And his last name happened to be Smith, the same as Greg Smith, and they pretended to be cousins.
So we tell Greg, we just want you to tell her that you have a cousin that's going to prison. If there happens to be something wrong with Abe, I bet for the right amount of money, he'll take a murder rap.
And I said, I know somebody. I got a cousin finna do 25 years that'll take that rap. Yeah, I got somebody.
Here's the deal. I went and talked to him. He said, okay, I'll do this.
When can I talk to him?
She reacted way more than we expected. She immediately says, I want a meeting. I want to meet him as soon as possible.
So soon after, they arrange a face-to-face meeting in another parking lot in Lakeland.
I pulled in right about this area here.
Okay.
And parked. She comes over, he jumps in the back seat, she jumps in the front.
Hello.
Hello. All right, this is my baby right here. You gotta take care of her.
He introduces us. We talk, small talk, briefly for a couple minutes.
Who does she think that you are at this point?
At that point, Greg had sold a story to her that I was a drug dealer. I was just a drug dealer. She knew I was just drug dealer. They got busted by the feds that was going away, that was willing to take the rap.
Yeah, I'm in over my head. I've never been through nothing like this in my life.
The meeting is taking place in a undercover vehicle that we had equipped with listening devices and recording devices.
And what was Dee Dee's demeanor like in the car? Was she twitchy? Do you think
she was all chipper, just normal. I believe the question was, why would you take the rap?
Why would you do that, though, for me?
I'm going anyhow. I'm going anyhow.
Well, I can tell you, if you do this, you're going to be a very popular person. You're gonna be a legend, and probably on the Oprah show.
When I told her, I said, I got busted by the feds, man. I'm gonna go do 25 years. I need the money to leave to my baby mama so she can take care of my child.
What do you want?
50 grand.
Okay. Can I do it in payments? Because I don't have that kind of cash. I'm gonna have to sell something.
I'm gonna need 10 up front. Once I do this, make sure my boy get the money.
Okay.
But that's not enough. You feel like you need more out of her.
I felt like I needed more out of her. I felt like we needed a body. Like I said, I'm gonna need a body. Probably can get a plea deal with them, because they definitely gonna want the body.
Okay.
And then Mike tells her, wherever the body is, I want to move it, because if I'm gonna confess to this, I'm gonna make it my own. And she brings up, there's a guy named Ronald, a drug dealer.
If you take the rap, he is not gonna show up. And I guarantee you, Ronald has killed him. I just know it.
We're like, Ronald? We've never heard of a Ronald.
And Ronald's the one he owed the money to?
Yeah, they were doing a drug deal. No, I think Ronald killed him for the money Abraham had on him. Abraham had a ton of cash on him, like the tune of $800,000.
This is a huge development. Whoever Ronald is, Dee Dee has just admitted for the first time that she knows that Abe is dead.
That's the biggest moment of the case. That's where we know 100% he's dead. I mean, for us, couldn't have been a bigger moment than that right there.
She kept saying, Ronald killed him. Ronald shot him. I said, well, where's the body, Dee Dee? You get with Ronald, ask him, Ronald can tell us body at. That way when I plea deal with, I can tell them the body is right here and they will dig him up.
Okay.
And they'll have a body.
Okay.
Get with Ronald, find out we need to know.
Okay.
Holler back at my boy.
Okay, I'll do it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
It was nice meeting you.
The next morning, Dee Dee calls Greg and says, we need to meet and make it quick.
Dee Dee wants Mike Smith to be able to confess as soon as possible so that the investigators will stop looking at her.
I don't think that they're watching all the properties and all the friends' properties I have.
He goes and meets Dee Dee, and Dee Dee hands him a towel. There's something wrapped in the towel, and she tells him, this is the gun that was used to kill Abraham.
We're gonna grind then we put his handprints on it, and we'll put it somewhere.
So she handed over her gun to you?
Exactly.
She trusted you that much that she handed you the murder weapon?
Exactly.
She asked him to meet him back at the same spot later in the night. She would show him exactly where the body was.
This is the perfect time. We'll call me in Plant City.
Yeah.
All right.
We set it up for her to take me to the body now.
Just like I figured, the body's still on that property. We're moving the body tonight.
Dee Dee thinks that once Greg and his cousin dig up the body, she's going to be home free. But she has no idea what is actually about to happen next. Not long after Dee Dee meets with the man who she believes will take the rap for killing Abe Shakespeare, she's driving along this road with Greg Smith, heading to a property she owns on the outskirts of Lakeland.
So Highway 60, it's considered a rural area of Hillsborough County. There's a lot of tomato fields, strawberry farms, and so forth.
You feel like you're in the country. Dee Dee's property has 2 ranch-style houses that are several yards apart.
They parked over at this house. We were just kind of on the side of the road with our lights off. She walks Greg right here. There was a 30-foot by 30-foot concrete slab.
Concrete slab in the middle of a field.
Yeah. And she takes a piece of angle iron and sticks it in the corner of the slab and sticks it down in there and says, dig. Abraham's body's right there.
It's right here. It'll be 9 foot. It'll be 9 foot deep.
And you're listening to this. You guys must be just going nuts at this point.
I think once we heard that, we both look at each other and go, wow, let's just hope this isn't another Dee Dee spin or scam on things.
We didn't know if we actually had the body down there or not.
As authorities begin this arduous work to uncover what's below ground, they simultaneously set up their next tactic for Dee Dee. A few hours later, investigators have Greg call her again. He says, there's a big problem. When we went to dig up the body, the place was swarming with cops. Dee Dee's response? Meet me at the mall.
Greg and Dee Dee then meet when all of a sudden, boom, the cops pull up. They jump out and they bust Greg.
I'm sure she's thinking that we're arresting Greg for the murder of Abraham. So she's composed and says she wants to come back and talk to us and let us know some things.
Okay, so you get her in here. That's you.
That's me. Okay, who is this guy?
Gregory Smith.
Gregory Smith.
That's who I know him as.
Okay.
Abraham introduced me to him.
She first says, hey, I'm glad y'all got that guy, Greg. I think that he's done something to Abraham.
Find out what he knows, because he knows where Abraham's at.
And so I let her go on for a few minutes, and I said, look, Dee Dee, I got some bad news for you. I think you know where I'm going with this, Dee Dee. The gig is up, okay? The gig is up. Listen, everything that you've told him, everything you've done, everything is recorded, Dee Dee. Everything is recorded.
Finally, you see her demeanor change. She rests her head on her hand.
We talk to him 10 times a day. We know every move you make. We know everything.
Dee Dee Moore is caught pretty much red-handed.
I want a deal, and I won't give you the person's name.
Dee Dee, at various times, blamed everybody under the sun for killing Abraham.
He gave me the name of the person that did it.
And here she goes into the whole Ronald, some random drug-dealing guy.
I honestly don't know the guy's name. I know him by Ronald.
So it's Greg Smith, it's Ronald, it's Mike Smith, the undercover.
The undercover, it's her son, it's Cedric Edom.
Everybody else.
Crazy, crazy.
Police say there is zero evidence that any of those people were actually involved.
Dee Dee, you've said so many things you can't even keep your head straight.
Okay, well,
listen. Who shot Abraham?
You know who shot him.
No. Who shot Abraham?
You know who shot him.
Authorities allow her to leave because without a body, they didn't have a case to arrest her.
Meantime, back at Dee Dee's property in Plant City, a team has assembled to attempt to find the evidence they need to actually arrest her.
We're talking probably 30, maybe 40 folks. This is definitely not a run-of-the-mill scene. The concrete slab was like a 900 square foot tombstone.
We've got a 30 by 30, 9-inch thick concrete slab that we've got to bust up.
On day one, there was nothing found. They kept digging and digging.
This is a painstaking task. This is 2 inches at a time, sifting through everything.
This was almost an archaeological dig here.
It was. I mean, every quadrant, everything, just so we didn't miss anything.
And at a point, once we hit about 9 feet, we started to uncover what appeared to be human remains.
You were able to look at this corpse, and you knew it was Abraham.
You didn't need
I
DNA?
didn't need fingerprints. I didn't need DNA. I mean, of course we did that, but I looked, and there's Abraham.
Investigators from Polk and Hillsborough counties announced a discovery tonight.
We have recovered human remains.
The media was doing a stakeout to try to get reaction from Dee Dee, and she drives by in a truck, rolls her window down.
I'm only coming out because the media will not leave.
And it develops into kind of an impromptu news conference.
They're saying that I took a gun, put it up, and killed another human being, and I would never, ever do that.
But the very next day...
Hey, Dee Dee, they're calling you a murderer. Are you a murderer? No.
Doris Dee Dee Moore denied any involvement in Abraham Shakespeare's murder as she was led into a deputy's car tonight.
It was shocking. Here's someone who was supposed to be helping this guy with his money, and now she's the one charged with his murder.
By the time we presented to the grand jury, she had provided the murder weapon, the body's behind one of her houses.
It's at the bottom, $1 million.
Dee Dee Moore was indicted for first-degree murder, premeditated murder of Abraham Shakespeare.
Dee Dee pleads not guilty, and when her trial starts...
As the now dark-dressed and dressed in yellow defendant took copious notes, lawyers from both sides made their opening arguments to the jury of 8 men and 4 women.
There's one big question. Will a jury believe her defense that she was actually a victim herself of the person she claims killed Abe? Six years after Abraham Shakespeare won the Florida lottery, 3.5 years after he disappeared, the murder trial of Dee Dee Moore is set to begin in this courthouse in Tampa.
State of Florida versus Doris Donegan Moore.
This has been a full day packed with the opening statements this morning and then the testimony this afternoon in what promises to be a full of drama trial.
The public's interest in this case was incredible.
Prosecutors claim Dee Dee Moore swindled
Journalists are always looking for something that is unprecedented.
Of Dee Dee's diabolical scheme to steal from, then kill lotto winner Abraham Shakespeare.
Or unusual, conflict, scandal. And this had pretty much all of the elements.
An anaphylactic shock.
Of course, Dee Dee's behavior in the courtroom also helped keep the story going.
Another day, another outburst.
We're not going to go back and forth. You need to compose yourself.
The prosecution is out to convince the jury that Dee Dee meticulously planned Abe's murder.
She conducted a sophisticated campaign to conceal his death by making up stories, by sending text messages.
It don't matter.
Prosecutors show the jury video that Dee Dee took of Abraham in the mansion, and it's really the last piece of video of Abraham alive.
Are you gonna miss your home?
Yep, I miss it, but life goes on.
She's setting up her alibi. She was setting up her story. She knew that Abraham was confronting her about the lack of funds and the ability to access his money and so forth. And it came to a point where in Dee Dee's mind, she's gonna have to do something about this.
Prosecutors believe right after that recording, Dee Dee and Abe traveled to her home in rural Plant City, Florida. And it's there that prosecutors say she shoots him and leaves him until the next day.
The body's on property she owns. The murder happened in her house and with her gun. She admitted she bought the lime that was poured over the body of Abraham Shakespeare.
Prosecutors show video in court of Dee Dee going to Walmart to buy cleaning supplies.
She was purchasing bleach and like latex gloves and I think some shovels to help Mike Smith and Greg Smith dig this body out by hand and dispose of it.
Although Dee Dee has never faced formal charges alleging she stole Abe's money, prosecutors say it was greed that motivated her to kill him.
Centuria is Abraham's former girlfriend, and she tells jurors that Dee Dee told her that she was plotting to take his money.
She made it sound like she wanted to clean him out
Why do you say that?
because she wanted to know about all of his assets, and she was like, I can help you clean him out. It was just a level of disgust to just know that this is what such a caring and giving person endured.
But the prosecutor's star witness is Greg Smith, who takes the stand to deliver some of the most compelling and devastating testimony at the trial so far.
Greg Smith had been recruited by the sheriff's detectives to become her confidant, and the courtroom was just spellbound by his testimony.
I'm grown and don't have to come back.
When Greg Smith read the letter that Dee Dee Moore had composed in the motel room, jurors were on the edge of their seat.
I've been through a lot, Mom. You know it. You should understand more than anyone. I just need time.
The prosecution also asks Greg Smith about that supposed drug dealer who Dee Dee claimed was the one who actually murdered Abe.
I honestly don't know the guy's name. I know him by Ronald.
Did Miss Moore address who to blame if you got caught?
Yes, she was addressing the guy Ronald, the imaginary character that she made up.
Ronald is nothing but a fictional character, a character that she created out of her imagination.
The defense, such as it was primarily based on that old premise that the state's case was all circumstantial, that there was no hard evidence, there were no eyewitnesses.
The burden of proof is on the state. It's a very high burden of proof beyond any reasonable doubt.
Dee Dee's lawyer tells the jury there's plenty of reasonable doubt here and that there could be many other possible suspects.
That the drug dealers or killers saw fit to threaten her to keep her mouth shut, or else they would harm her and her son.
The defense argues that Greg Smith could actually have been the mastermind in Abe's murder.
If you study those tapes, most of the ideas about the fall guy, about where's the body, we've got to find the body, we've got to dig up the body and move it, all those things.
By the end of their case, the defense called 0 witnesses, and Dee Dee herself never testified on her behalf.
Tonight, after just 3 hours of deliberation, a jury handed down their verdict.
But no matter what the jury decides about her fate,
bring the jury in.
Dee Dee's about to tell us exactly what she thinks about it.
But they didn't get to hear my side. They didn't get to see my evidence. They didn't get to hear my witnesses.
Why didn't you take the stand then? After almost 2 weeks of this roller coaster murder trial, it's now up to the jury to decide Dee Dee's fate.
Bring the jury in.
Tonight, after just 3 hours of deliberation, a jury handed down their verdict.
Juries do unpredictable things at times.
Is that indeed the jury's verdict?
It was probably 7 o'clock at night. A storm was coming in. Right as they read guilty on the first count,
The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
a clap of lightning happens outside and just kind of lights up the courtroom. It was kind of like, yeah, it was wild.
Abraham Shakespeare was your prey and your victim. Money was the root of the evil that you brought to Abraham.
The judge made a brief statement about how heinous her crime was and that he would be sentencing her to life in a Florida state prison without the possibility of parole.
I felt like he did get justice because even though his life was cut short, her life is just going to be long and miserable.
I won't forgive her. I don't forgive, and I never will.
Convicted murderers rarely talk while they still have appeals left, but then again, Dee Dee Moore is no ordinary murderer.
I'm not nervous. I don't get nervous.
Hi, After Dee Dee was sentenced to life in prison without parole in 2012, 2020 was granted an exclusive interview with Dee Dee here in her cell block's cafeteria. Upon arrival, we quickly learned that Dee Dee wasn't exactly camera shy.
Yeah, I've been on TV before.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yeah. You're a pro.
Let me show you this.
And this is fan mail. This is people...
I have more than fan mail. I have a movie producer doing a big TV screen production of my case.
Despite that jury taking less than 3 hours to convict her, Dee Dee vehemently maintains her innocence.
I think people are complete idiots that think I had anything to do with it. I really do.
When the guilty verdict was read, what went through your mind?
They murdered me by the hands of justice. I'm murdered. You might as well kill me, because this is no type of living in here. Because I would never harm another human being. I would never hurt nobody. I liked Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Disney. I like Tinkerbell and kind things. I'm not a mean person.
After a 2-week trial filled with damning audio and video evidence, I wondered if Dee Dee might finally come clean about what really happened to Abraham Shakespeare. Did you murder Abraham Shakespeare?
Absolutely not.
Did you bury him in your backyard?
Absolutely not.
Why are you laughing?
Because...
A man is dead. He's been murdered,
yes,
clearly.
Yes.
And you're laughing.
Yeah. Because I find it entertaining that people are that ignorant. Because there are so many things that proves my innocence.
You ended up in his house with all the rest of his money. Then he ended up dead in your property.
Okay. But
shot by your gun. You don't find any of that unusual or odd?
Absolutely not, considering the people he hung around. I only knew this man for 4 months, and I'm just gonna, oh my goodness, I met this man, and you know what? I'm gonna plot a murder in 4 months.
Do you understand how listening to you is bewildering?
Well, do you understand how listening to you is just, it sounds like a bunch of stupidity?
So if Dee Dee's claims are so convincing, why didn't the jury buy it? Well, she blames it all on her own attorney.
About me. I personally would have convicted myself for what they got to hear, but they didn't get to hear my side. They didn't get to see my evidence. They didn't get to hear my witnesses.
Why didn't you take the stand then?
Because
you had every opportunity to defend yourself.
I wanted my witnesses to take the stand, for me to take the stand. My lawyer says we didn't need it.
Your lawyer was that convinced you were going to win?
Yes.
But Dee Dee's lawyer, Byron Heilman, said the decision not to testify was Dee Dee's, and Dee Dee's alone.
We discussed with Ms. Moore whether she wished to testify. That discussion had gone on for quite some time, and she made the decision not to do that.
But since she claims her case was not properly presented in court, Dee Dee tries with us. People were trying to frame you.
Absolutely.
Why?
Because, first of all, I was an easy target.
A target, she claims, for drug dealers. Remember the story about Ronald, that so-called drug kingpin? Dee Dee claims the gang he allegedly had was out to kill her.
They were gonna take my son and kill him and chop him up and put him on my doorstep.
Who?
These guys that the sheriff's department says didn't exist, that we have witnesses that they do exist.
You give so many different versions that it's absolutely bewildering. Why is that?
I'm threatened. They're making.
So you're lying to the police because you feel threatened?
No, I'm being told to do that. I'm being told to just keep throwing them off.
By
Ronald.
Dee Dee claims she has witnesses who will back up her version of events, but she wasn't eager to share those names with us. Can we talk to your witnesses? Who are they? Do you mind if we take down their names and maybe contact them?
I'd have to ask my lawyer, but I don't know if they'll...
These witnesses don't exist, and that certainly looks like your handwriting.
What do you mean?
That looks like your handwriting. What you said were witnesses' notes looks like your handwriting.
No,
I don't think that these witnesses exist. If not, why won't we know it? So Dee Dee says since she's appealing her conviction, she can't actually talk about them. And with that, our interview is over.
We need to go and take her now. Okay, thank you. Well, it was nice meeting you.
You too. Dee Dee may not have been willing to share her evidence of supposed witnesses with us, but she's going to get a chance to present her claims in court.
Is going to be back in court today. Dee Dee Moore will try to convince a judge to give her a retrial.
Will it be enough to get her murder conviction overturned? After years of filing motions to appeal her conviction, in July of 2023, Dee Dee finally gets another day in court.
Dee Dee Moore is back in a Tampa courtroom demanding a new trial.
Dee Dee tells the judge that she was framed by investigators who were paid off by those drug dealers that she alleged were doing business with Abraham Shakespeare.
They're being paid under the table because cocaine dealers can afford a lot.
The investigators denied Dee Dee's allegations.
I have never heard of anything of this corrupt drug network involving Abraham Shakespeare or corruption within either of our departments.
It's absurd. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
The judge denied Dee Dee's request for a new trial. But that wasn't the last time we heard from Dee Dee. More than 12 years after we first talked in Florida, we spoke to Dee Dee again on a call for prison. Tell me, how are you?
I'm fine. I've been working on my case and I've got my appeals out, so I'm waiting patiently.
How long have you been incarcerated in jail and in prison at this point?
14 years.
You still do not admit that you murdered Abe Shakespeare?
Absolutely not, I didn't.
14 years is a lot of time to think. Do you ever go back and think about Abe, about Abraham Shakespeare?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was wrong. There was no reason for him to pass away over money. But for them to lie in public and say that it took his money, the whole situation was so stupid.
You murdered him and you've taken zero responsibility. And you're saying, like, in past tense, that it's so sad he had to pass away. Abraham Shakespeare did not pass away. Abraham Shakespeare was shot at close range.
Everything they said in jury trials was not true.
I thought that you might,
Remorse?
more than a decade after our interview, have some remorse, some reflection about what had happened. That maybe there was a little bit of softness in your heart about Abraham and about your responsibility here.
There is plenty of softness in my heart.
She is still as adamant as she ever was that she was framed, that Abraham Shakespeare was murdered by someone else. She denies taking Abe's money. She denies doing anything wrong. Abraham Shakespeare not only lost his fortune and his life, he lost the chance to see his children grow up.
Everyone, thank you for coming.
The funeral was very emotional. It was a celebration of his life, but it was also very sad to learn that he was killed for his money was just something that everybody could not understand.
He was a kind-hearted person who genuinely wanted to help people. He helped tons of people in this city. He kept people from going into foreclosure. He paid light bills, phone bills. He honestly did that.
Imagine just spending your last $4, which is what Abraham Shakespeare did on those lottery tickets, putting your last money on a far-fetched dream. Abraham did a lot of good with some of his winnings. The favor wasn't returned to him.
He was a wonderful man.
Yeah, that's right.
He will be sorely missed.
I'll never forget, after they found him, I remember having a dream. And I remember in the dream telling Abraham, oh good, you can come with me now. And he kept saying, no, you'll be okay. That was enough for me to believe that I'll be okay. I really miss him today. I really just need to hear his voice today. I just want him, like, bring him back.